What is going on, everybody? This is the 8K live stream. I appreciate all you guys for subscribing. We are over 8K, so that is really cool. Honestly, never thought I would see that day, but we're going to keep rolling with it. So much appreciated as always. Let's see. Is the chat working? As always, let's see if that's working. All right, it's working on my end. Before we even get going good, let's see if this is working over here. Not seeing a chat back. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to restart this again. Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Chat is working. Praise the technology gods. All right, so we've got several stories here today. Luke Lambert going over to Petty GMS. Dale Jr. was in the WWE. He is also racing Anderson, South Carolina. Where is he racing at in South Carolina? He's coming back and doing a late model race in South Carolina. Maybe Dylan. Let's see, Stewart, NHRA. He's going to be racing in Vegas. So he is a drag racing man now. So we'll see how that goes for him. We got some ice racing. NASCAR Europe is going ice racing over in Finland. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they do that. M&M's released their final paint scheme, and Brad Keselowski had a pretty interesting tweet regarding honoring drivers. They revealed a Matt Kenseth throwback scheme for the 17, and he said this is a really cool throwback scheme. And he said something to the effect of basically a veiled apology to Mark Martin. And I'm thinking that there will be a Mark Martin throwback tribute scheme in the future. So a lot of stuff to cover, whatever you guys want to talk about, really, as always. So let's go to the chat now and see what is going on. Kevin S., what's going on? Bumblebee says the chat's working and you can hear me. Roll call says Beechwood. Enzo Alanio, chat's working. Appreciate it, buddy. Good evening, everybody, says Mark Barnum. The Thump says, what's up? Kyle Larson could possibly split the championship for the first time since the 60s, says one wise guy. That is another thing that I haven't talked about yet. So the 5-car via owner's points, the 5-car is locked into the Final Four on owner's points, even though Kyle Larson was eliminated because of the penalty to William Byron being overturned or whatever. William Byron is still in. So there's a weird situation where Kyle Larson can win the championship with the 5-car in owner's points, and then you would have a different champion over there for the actual driver champion, which, as you pointed out, is the first time it would have happened since the 1960s. So that is really cool. Very interesting stuff there. And who was it? Who was it in the 60s? If anybody was that, like the Wood Brothers, David Pearson, or something like that? I wasn't aware that it had ever happened, but apparently it's happened in the 60s. So that's really cool. I know it's happened in the Xfinity Series or Busch Series or whatever you want to call it, because I know RCR did it one year with like Clint Boyer, Scott Wimmer, and Kevin Harvick, maybe. So I know they did that with the 21 car. So I know it's happened over there. But it's definitely a really weird and slightly cool story that you could have for the first time since the 60s. Somebody win the championship, and then you would have a different car owner. So it would make for an interesting award ceremony. I might actually watch the award ceremony if that's going to go down like that. Let's see. Joseph Wooten said, so, well, yeah. Did Kyle Larson thank Bubba Wallace and Victory Lane? I don't know about all that. I think Kyle Larson, as far as I'm concerned, he said he's over it. That's what he said. But without a doubt, if you're Bubba Wallace, that's the worst possible thing. And if anything will ever change the way he approaches his temper and stuff like that, that's probably the worst thing that could happen. The guy that you sort of got into a dust-up with wins the next race while you had to sit at home. I think you'll see probably, if anything changes him as far as having a short temper, that would probably change him. It would change me. That would be some humble pie that I would be eating, which is what he tweeted, by the way. If you didn't see that, Bubba Wallace did tweet, sitting at the shop helping 2311, door dashing some humble pie. So it has affected him. So hopefully he comes back better from that. Let's talk about WWE, how WWE really blows. I don't know, man. Mark Barnum, they just got the Fiend back, or whatever he's going by now. So they could be on the upswing as far as that goes. Have to follow it and see how it goes from there. Enzo says NASCAR Europe races on ice. NASCAR USA can't even do it in the rain. That's a fair point. That is a fair point. I am excited. I kind of want to see how they where they put that on the schedule, and if there's any way for us to watch it over here. I do want to watch that race and see how it goes because I am interested. It's another gimmick. NASCAR needs another gimmick, right? But racing on ice, they race on dirt. They might as well. I mean, you've got Wisconsin, you got the Piney Series in Canada. There's an option if that ice race goes well that they could do it in the States or at least in Canada. So it would be cool if it goes well. I'm open for anything at this point. I like all kinds of racing, so I'm down for whatever. Mark Barnum says they've been racing on ice in Georgetown, Colorado for decades, and that is actually what I wanted to ask. I'm glad somebody came up with that. How do you race in the ice? Do they put chains on the tires, or do they have a special tire that I know they race on lakes basically when the lakes freeze all the way over. What is the basic setup? Is it a special type of tire with studs in it, or how do they typically do ice racing over there, Mark Barnum, or anybody that wants to take that answer? Finland ice racing will be a trip for sure, says Steve Manning. Yeah, I think it's going to be really awesome. I'm really kind of excited to see how a stock car, even though the NASCAR Euro stock cars are a little bit different than, say, what we're used to seeing over here as far as weight goes. But I am interested to see what one of those would do on ice, because I'm just imagining they're going to be fishtailing and going all over the place. I think it'll be cool. In Canada, we race motorcycles on the ice, studded tires, ski-doos, the same track. So there you go, studded tires as far as bikes go. So I'm wondering what's going on, how they're going to pull it off with NASCAR. I also want to take a look at that tire when they do it too. So I'm going to be all in on that one if we can get coverage over here. Of course, there will be somewhat of a language barrier. All the Norwegian or Nordic countries typically speak English as well, though. Let's see. All Larson has to do is keep spinning and shoving people against the wall to win, says the Thump. So not a fan of Larson. Sort of is what it is. He doesn't back away from it, but he has driven more aggressively this season than he has normally. Stupid Roofer, what's going on? Let's see. Kyle just flat out made a personal statement on track Sunday. That was a floor mopping. Dude had a 10-second lead twice. Yeah, and they showed, Bumblebee said that, they showed some advanced metrics to where if the last 50 laps had gone or something like that, and he would have had this insanely big lead on everybody. So it was, he definitely put it on him for sure. Had the fastest car by far that day, no doubt about it. Mark Barnum saying, hoping the DoorDash humble pie was rotten. I'm pretty sure when Kyle Larson crossed that finish line, it was pretty rotten for him. But hopefully he learns from that and he'll come back and be a better person, better driver for it. Get that temper under control. Ryan Perez says, what do you think about Luke Lambert moving to Petty GMS, continue being Noah Gregson's crew chief? I think that's a really good move. I think that gives Noah Gragson the best opportunity to be really good next season as a rookie or a semi-rookie. I assume he's going to be a rookie because, of course, all the rookie stuff is a case-by-case deal. But I'm assuming that NASCAR will want him and Ty Gibbs going for Rookie of the Year. And I think that will be a really good Rookie of the Year battle because the GMS, the guy that owns GMS, I can't say his last name, so I'm not going to try. But old Marty said he's not afraid to spend money. He's not getting any younger, so they're going to spend money and try to win championships. So going forward, I would put Petty GMS as one of those teams that'll spend money, and they'll be considered one of the bigger teams. Mark Barnum says they use studded tires, so there you go. We're going to see a studded NASCAR tire possibly, so that'll be really cool in NASCAR Euro. But I think Noah Gragson getting Luke Lambert is going to give him the best possible situation. Douglas Serrano, what's going on, buddy? ML William 213 says NBC never mentioned the parallel between Gragson and Larson. Both have been great at Homestead, but never won. Both untouchable on the same weekend. That is a good point. They both are really good at running high. They both have run really good at Miami, but neither one of them had ever sealed the deal. And on the same weekend, they both sealed the deal, and they both did it in very convincing fashion. Joe Weatherly and Fred Lorenzen in 1963 were the co-champions. Won a car owner champion and won a driver championship. So that was the last time it happened was 1963. Appreciate it, one wise guy. Let's see. Corn-fed covers, what's going on, man? Bumblebee says, what do we do if a car gets stuck in the snow? Is it gonna be like watch Eskimos or Yetis or whatever? That is a good question. I don't know what the protocol would be. I'm sure they would just pull it out. Be interesting to see what the walls are too. Do they do like snow drifts as walls? So there's all kinds of ways you can do it. I would imagine. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Or if there's no wall, does the car just keep sliding and sliding and sliding, and you throw a caution to get it back on the track? So there's going to be I got a lot of questions for it. I want to see how they do it going forward. I think that's going to be an interesting race. Let's see. Rusty Beechwood said Larson is the baddest driver on the planet. He definitely was last year. Compared to last year, he's had somewhat of a down year, but 3 wins in a down year is still a good year. So the smart money is on young money, as they say, and it definitely was for that race. In fact, I did pick him. I said, if going with my gut, I'm picking Kyle Larson, and I also picked that Austin Dillon top 3 and top 5, or top 5, I should say. So pretty excited about that. Let's see. Philip Kennevan says Yugo fact imported 141,651 cars. There you go. There is your Yugo fact. So of those 141,000, I need to find one. They did make them overseas up until 2008, I believe. So there's your other Yugo fact. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. A little early to be getting into the Yugo talk, but I will allow it. Usually that's second hour stuff, but we'll start it off early today, no problem. Yugo on ice, BB, let's make it happen. So there you go. I need to find a Yugo, and possibly if we find it in enough time to get it into an ice race. Of course, that will only happen once we hit 10,000 subs. So if you're not subscribed, I would appreciate your subscription. Hopefully I earned it. And when that happens, we will do a Yugo project or a Yugo equivalent project, because they are really hard to find. So we'll see what happens. I'm just happy that there's a chance it's going to be in the 60s. Be able to dump the blankets, says John Lewis. Good points. Hopefully this weather at Martinsville will be better than the last trip to Martinsville they had, where it was got a little bit of everything you wanted. It was sunny, then it was snow, then it was sleet, then it was just got a little bit of everything. Freezing rain, sat through all of it, and it was not a fun experience, especially to watch cars go around in circle and only a few of them could make passes. Although I didn't have as bad a time at the track apparently as people had watching it on television. So when I did my recap of it there, I was going off of what people saw on television. Up close and personal at the track, there was actually a lot of people making moves. Austin Dillon was coming through the field pretty good. Ross Chastain was passing cars pretty good. And William Byron, before he got the lead, he had no problem passing. So there were cars that could pass, but not every car could pass. Also, as far as that goes, Hendrick Motorsports, I was just watching Race Hub. They said they are coming with the exact same setup for William Byron that he won with in the earlier race this season. So Hendrick Motorsports going with the same setup. So we'll see what happens there. NASCAR going EV is going to be the final nail in the coffin, says Stupid Roofer. Yeah, that's not coming next season like they said it would. So that got put on hold. But we'll have to see how that goes going forward. I don't think it'll always be a separate series until it becomes, unless EVs become the common cars that like everybody's driving. One wise guy said Tony Stewart is running his first NHRA race this weekend. Yet I think he's doing Top Fuel, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he's going to continue to do that going forward. So that might be his new jam, aside from SRX. So all the Tony Stewart fans will have T-shirts and stuff they can buy now as well. Mark Barnum wants to know how the knee is, Bumblebee. Let's see. And she said getting better, but it's sore still. Martinsville hot dogs are great. Sodium nitrates, red dye number 40 will make anything taste great, says John Crane. Yeah, they are. So if you've never had a Martinsville hot dog, just go get a Jesse Jones hot dog, because that is exactly what they are. If you aren't able to make the trip out to Martinsville, and then throw some chili and mustard and onion on it, and you got yourself a Martinsville hot dog. NBC never once showed the steering wheel cam. We got the shotgun seat. That is bogus, says Rusty Beechwood. talking about they didn't show the in-car from when he intentionally wrecked Kyle Larson or whatever. All I want for Phoenix is for Martin Truex to win, replicating Mark Martin's 91 season. Larson gets second, securing the owners, and Blaney third for the drivers. That would be really cool, Mark Hunter. That would be the ultimate middle finger if that could happen from fate to the current point system, in my opinion. And I know some people like the current point system. I'm just not one of them, but if you enjoy it, feel free to enjoy it. I'm just, speaking from my perspective. I'm not a fan of it, but it does what it does. It creates excitement. So that's what they created it for, and that's what it does. Douglas Serrano says, are Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson challengers to Larson? Not right now, they're not. They both have potential, and as long as you got potential, your potential can be, whatever your potential may be. We don't know yet, and that's the fun thing about rookies. You never know how good they're going to be, but are they challengers to Larson? Right now, no, but who knows what the future holds. Ty Gibbs is in a much better situation because he's always going to have really good stuff. He's always going to have top-notch equipment, and he will have that longevity because his grandfather is not going to kick him out of the car. So definitely he's in the right situation. So going forward, it will be interesting to watch. But the biggest concern for probably Kyle Larson would be the guy driving the 9 car right beside of him. Those two are going to have a heck of a rivalry until one of them retires. I think that's going to be the bigger rivalry going forward, and it's interesting that they're on the same team and occasionally rub each other the wrong way. But they seem to get along pretty good outside of that. 40 entries for 38 spots in the Xfinity race at Martinsville. Ryan Vargas, Ryan Vargas was out South Boston. I saw him, but he was kind of far off. I did see him at South Boston the other day in the Car Store race. He was walking around hanging out. 13 of Fincham, the 18 of Sammy Smith, 26 of Griffith, 34 of Kyle Weatherman, and 35 of Emmerling, 36 of LeBay, and the 38 of CJ McLaughlin. So there you go. There is your late entries to the Xfinity Series. Old home guy, what's going on? Good to see you on here, man. And then Moulton has listed off some more of the entries there. So if you would like to read them, they are in the chats. I think Ty Gibbs will struggle next year in Cup. That's a fair statement. Mark Barnum saying that. That is a fair statement to make. I think any rookie is going to struggle in Cup. Not only is it just a different car to get used to, even though he's getting basically a test run here, and so is Noah Gragson basically getting a test run on this car, but I think it's also really difficult because you're just going up to another level of talent. The Xfinity Series has plenty of nice young talent. They have some veterans in there that are Xfinity lifers. Same thing with the Truck Series. But once you move past those two series, and I've said this often, I see the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series being dead even as far as talent goes. I think you have more veterans in the Truck Series, and I think you've got more guys that are young and willing to get after it as far as young drivers go in the Xfinity Series. And I think the Xfinity Series is more dependent on equipment, but they're both somewhat dependent on equipment. But once you get past that level and make the jump to Cup, the jump in talent is just completely different. And I just see it being just a much bigger jump for some people than others. That being said, Ty Gibbs is going to have the best of everything. He's going to have the best coaching. He's going to have the best cars. He's going to have the best setups. So what him struggling looks like will probably be different than seeing other people struggle. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see what Noah Gragson does because they have said they're opening the pocketbooks. They're going to spend as much money. They want a championship sooner rather than later because they're not getting any younger. So I'm thinking he'll probably have really good equipment too. I just don't know how long of a leash he's going to have. I don't know if they stick with him because they got rid of Ty Dillon pretty quick. They assessed that Ty Dillon wasn't going to do anything close to getting them a championship or wins, and they got off of Ty Dillon pretty quick. How much leeway does Noah Gragson get? Earlier on, before they said that they are going for championships and they're going to start spending a lot of money, I was thinking this is a good situation for Noah Gragson because he'll have plenty of time and a long leash to learn the sport. Now, I don't think he's going to have that much grace as he previously would have had. So now I'm thinking he might only get 2 or 3 years tops if he doesn't produce. So bringing in Luke Lambert is going to really help them a lot. So hopefully, if anybody can hit the ground running, it'll be that crew and that group. But it's going to be an interesting Rookie of the Year battle. I see Ty getting 2 or 3 top 5s, 7 or 8 top 10s his rookie year. He's not going to be a huge threat right away. That could be true. Any announcement on Ty Gibbs yet? Says Douglas Serrano. They said they're not going to announce their driver lineup until after the season. So that is the only announcement on it so far. So as far as we know, just sit tight and wait till the end of the season as far as when they will officially announce Ty Gibbs to the 18, which is what everybody is assuming. I love NASCAR, but dirt is what I was raised watching. Why isn't it more popular? I love good dirt races with a few cold ones, says Nathan Urich. I think there's a lot of people that love dirt racing. And the only reason the dirt race at Bristol gets any pushback is because dirt racers want it at a real dirt track and not Bristol. So I think the market to see cup cars race on the dirt is there. They just want to see it in a different form, and they want to see it with a dirt car that's actually competitive, not this new car that has been heavily criticized doing a dirt race. I mean, this car races as far as what we've seen so far with this car, the only races where this car races well are the 1.5s, and it has been they need some improvement at the other tracks, to put it nicely. Tony's wife will dust him in top fuel, says Mark Barnum. No doubt about it. So she's got the experience and equal equipment. You got to go with experience every time. But it is cool that Tony Stewart's out there trying something different, and I think it'll be really cool for everybody to watch him. I saw on NBC Sports about Luke Lambert today, says Douglas Serrano. Yeah, that's actually going to help out Noah Gragson quite a bit, and that might actually give him a little bit of an edge to Ty Gibbs, who will have a different crew chief when he goes to the 18 than he's been working with all season, probably at 2311, unless 2311 sends the crew chief over there. With Toyota, you never know. They work pretty much in tandem, so you never know what's going to happen with them over there. Don't forget, Ty Gibbs can do something to be disowned by his grandpa, says Old Home Guy. He could, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Let's see. They need to do Owners Championship as full season points. It would be a legit championship. ML William 213 says, I agree with that. I would love to see a full season's worth of points, and you can do some type of playoff or some other bonus thing to create drama if you want to. Paul Sayre says, if EVs worked for F1, then why not NASCAR? True, it will not be as popular as NASCAR, but it will have a fan base. Yeah, I agree with you. I think here's the deal. It will be a separate series, just like Formula E is for Formula One. They'll just have 2 separate series, and they might occasionally accompany each other, just like the Xfinity Series and Truck Series occasionally accompany the Cup Series. But I never really saw it as NASCAR is going fully electric anytime soon. We as consumers would have to go fully electric before NASCAR would put fully electric cars on the track, has always been my view on it. So all this people worrying about NASCAR Cup Series going fully electric, I think that's much ado about nothing, to be totally honest. It'll take a while for that to happen. I mean, even the people that are pushing it the hardest are saying 2035. So 2035 would probably be the soonest. So I wouldn't worry about it too much if you're concerned about it. But I do think it's 2 different markets. There's 2 different race fans that'll enjoy it. And me personally, I don't have a problem with it. I'll go watch a Formula E race. I'll watch anything because it's racing, and it would be interesting to see what they do, how those cars function and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with it. It's just, it's not going to sit well doing that to the Cup Series, and I don't think they'll do it. Probably not even in 2035, if I had to guess. But we probably will see them go hybrid at some point. We've seen F1 go hybrid, so you probably will see something where you get an electric boost to increase horsepower. It won't really probably affect gas mileage or anything like that. It won't be Prius hybrid. Think more of Porsche Ferrari hybrid going forward. Can I get your thoughts on the absolute rolling cup? AJ Allmendinger has been on 5 straight top 10s. And he's getting on those ovals too. Do you really think he's a legit contender next year? Yep. AJ Allmendinger is one of the best drivers in the field, and there's no doubt about it. He will make some noise next season with Kaulig, and I think you'll see at least that 16 car be greatly improved. You're actually starting to see Justin Haley put it together here recently as well. So I think you'll see Kaulig be vastly improved next year over what they did this season. So I think you'll see AJ be a contender, and don't sleep on Justin Haley, because the more reps he gets, the better he seems to be getting in this particular Cup car as well. Greg Staten says Tony's going to drive top alcohol, not top fuel. Appreciate it. I just saw the top and skimmed over the article, so appreciate that. So top alcohol, not top fuel, will be what Tony Stewart is driving in. So that'll be interesting either way. I'm still sure they'll sell a ton of merchandise and stuff like that, and I'm sure he'll do it more than once because he's Tony Stewart and he likes to go fast and win. Xfinity car, you have to drive, and the trucks you have to ride, says Mark Barnum. Yeah, it's definitely a different skill set, and they drive completely differently. They're constructed completely differently. The trucks are actually harder to put together, more expensive to put together, and they've got the lower purse. So the truck series, that's a common complaint in that one. Be real interesting to see how AJ performs in 2023. That's who I'm pulling for in 2023, says John Lewis. Yeah, I think AJ Allmendinger will probably have a pretty fair season. He will be in the mix for the championship, or at least to get into the playoffs, or whatever you want to call it, if we even have a playoffs next year. So we don't even know what's going to happen with that next year. I think Gragson is going to struggle, and I'll be happy because F him, says Molten Rage. So Molten Rage does not like Noah Gragson. As much as he pulls for Cole Custer, he equally hates Noah Gragson. So there you go. Paul Sayers says, give a thumbs up for Blaney to make it into the win and winning the championship. Yep. Hopefully he can get it without getting a win. That's the main thing. So I just want maximum pressure put on Blaney. And Bumblebee said that's an L take on Noah Gragson, Molten Rage. But yeah, I think a lot of people are pulling for Blaney to win it without winning a race, to put maximum pressure on this system. Hershey's to sponsor Kyle Busch at RCR. Make it happen, people. There you go. Douglas Serrano with that one. Paul Sayers with the thumbs up. So yeah, somebody start a what do they call those things? I don't know. One of those polls that you send around on the emails and share them on social media. Listen to me now or something like that. I don't know. Start one of those to get Hershey's to sponsor Kyle Busch. That's what I was getting at. Hershey's would be cool, says John Lewis. KFB in the s'mores car, that would be cool, because then you would have the graham cracker, you would have the marshmallow, and the chocolate, and they could all sponsor different races. All kinds of sponsorship ideas for that. What's going on? Just joining, says Dwayne Lawson. Glad to have you aboard as always, Dwayne. John Lewis says can't see Kyle in a KISS car. LOL. That would be an interesting move, because RCR did have a KISS car at one time. So they could do a throwback, and then that would probably be a pretty good merchandise seller right there. Other series I would like to watch are flat track bikes, says Mark Barnum. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of the bike stuff here recently, actually motocross, but I have been sort of getting into that. I missed the old Two-Wheel Tuesday at Dave Despain back in the day. Brad broke the top 5 drought this week. Really happy to see that. RFK is doing a good job since the playoffs started as a whole, says Bumblebee. That is a good point. Keselowski has basically turned RFK around. RFK was an organization that nobody was really talking about. They were just sort of in this group with RCR and Petty GMS, or RPM back then, as everybody's like, oh, they're past their prime, they're never going to win again, and all that good stuff. Now Brad Keselowski has put them, ironically, this new car and just other various factors of new ownership and stuff like that. But now RFK, RCR, and the Wood Brothers, and whoever else that you want to group in that, they are all back to a level of winning, and it's very interesting. This season has brought some of these teams that have been considered mediocre back to the limelight, and some other teams that we thought would be really good have not had the season we thought they would have. So Joe Gibbs Racing and RCR have a similar amount of wins. I think Joe Gibbs Racing has maybe one more win than RCR, but who would have called that at the beginning of the season? Not me. Ross Chastain is the favorite right now, and who would have called Trackhouse being good? So all kinds of, basically, who would have thought Chip Ganassi Racing would be contending for a championship? Ross Chastain is the favorite right now to win, all great speed, and he is the most consistent right now, says Lindsey Bell. That is pretty much a fair statement. The only thing I would say about that is Joey Logano has had, his team is going to have so many extra weeks to R&D specifically for Phoenix that I would give a little bit of an edge slightly to the 22 car, but Ross Chastain holds all the tiebreakers right now with that second place finish last weekend at Miami. And he also has been the most consistent, and he also has about an 18-point points gap. So if you break down all of the drivers that could have a slightly bad race, he can't have a catastrophic race, but he could still have a bad race and he would have the tiebreaker. So he only has to beat really 4 cars because, you know, he holds the tiebreaker. So he is in the best position of anybody, without a doubt. Noah Gragson is the reason Sheldon Creed missed the playoffs. If he didn't, some reason, jump the 54 into the second, into the two might have made the playoffs. How can anyone forget about Bristol? How, says Moulton. So Moulton is airing his grievances about Noah Gragson. That is a very specific. There's a lot of things you could not like about Noah Gragson, but that one is super specific. Dumped, not jumped. I got you, Moulton. Gragson might have a problem with the length of cup races. Dude looks worn out after the Xfinity race. Larson looked like he could run another 400. Says ML William. And not to husky shame anybody, but Noah Gragson, that fire suit has gotten tighter throughout the season, so he might need to hit up some cardio before the Cup season starts, just like I need to. So I will say that about myself as well. So we both need to get on the treadmill and put some work in, do some road work, as they say in boxing. Molten Rage, I didn't know dumping someone into another car is racing, but it is racing, Molten. They've been doing it for years, especially on the last lap. It might not be everybody's favorite type of racing, but it's been around for a long time. Evidently, what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. Sometimes you have to sit out the next week, says Old Home Guy. I have no idea what you're referencing, Old Home Guy. Let's see. I was just glad to see the 54 go around, LOL. So there you go. Ty Gibbs. That's an interesting thing to talk about. Ty Gibbs had a built-in fan base because there were a lot of Kyle Busch fans that were like, I'm going to pull for Ty Gibbs when Kyle Busch retires. I wonder if they feel the same way now that Ty Gibbs has sort of been in the mix as to part of the reason as to why Kyle Busch was let go, depending on how you look at it. Now, I wasn't in the talks. I don't know why they let Kyle Busch go or why Kyle Busch left, depending on how you look at it. But I would be interested to know if those same Kyle Busch fans that were going to pull for Ty Gibbs after Kyle Busch retires still plan on pulling for Ty Gibbs when he retires, because he definitely has a built-in group that does not care for him. Noah Gragson fans, Sam Mayer fans, Dale Jr. Or Junior Motorsports fans might not like him because of how their drivers have been driven by him and just various other things he's done on the racetrack to be controversial. Some people don't like the way he gives interviews. There's a built-in group of people that don't care for Ty Gibbs, but he seemed to have a built-in fan base with Kyle Busch and the Kyle Busch fans. I wonder if those same Kyle Busch fans are still sort of feeling like they will pull for Ty Gibbs when Kyle Busch retires. I've seen a lot of Kyle Busch fans say that they won't pull for anybody in a Toyota anymore. So that's why I say that. Speedway Anywhere says, sorry, I got here late. I predicted Todd Majeski back in February. It's going to be another great year. And I told you, it's kind of like when I said Jeff Burton will get multiple wins in 1997. So yeah, that was a good, and I was with you on that Todd Majeski pick, by the way. I'm a big believer in Todd Majeski. I've watched that guy race a lot of stuff. He has got a lot of talent, and I'm not surprised at all that he is going for the championship in the Final Four in the Truck Series. So good for him. Shout out to him. PRW man in the, he's a Forrest Reynolds man in the late model world. So shout out to him and Forrest. Let's see. I was thinking trucks. Lane Riggs is getting another truck start in Arizona. So Lane Riggs will be getting another truck start in Arizona. He is a PRW man, and that's who I was thinking about when I said PRW a minute ago. So sorry about the confusion there, but Forrest and Roger are both good dudes. Wonder about Mark Martin, story about RFK and Jack giving him some of the cold shoulder. I guess once you're out, you're out, says John Lewis. I don't know about that. I think it was just a situation where Castrol Castrol is the sponsor of RFK, and they told basically probably RFK people and employees not to have anything to do with that Mark Martin Valvoline car. I think that is more of where the rub comes from, because Brad Keselowski released a statement today. Let me find it right here and read it real quick. I've got it saved, I'm pretty sure. If I don't have it saved, I'll move on. But basically, the way Brad Keselowski worded it, you could tell. Here it is right here. Trying really hard to honor our past while not losing sight of our future. It's nice to be able to do that for Matt Kenseth, upcoming 2023 Hall of Fame induction, talking about the throwback they're doing for Matt Kenseth. And then he went on to say, we may not always get it right, but we will have more to come to make up for when we don't. So I thought when he said we've got more to come to make up for what we don't, for when we don't, he was specifically telling Mark Martin, sorry that you that we did you that way, or that you felt like we did you that way, but we will in the future have a scheme and you will be honored. So I'm pretty sure Mark Martin, they're going to make up with Mark Martin, or at least try to make up with Mark Martin, because I think they thought it was sort of probably BS too. But when a sponsor is paying that much money and they tell you to do something, you're sort of in a tight spot. I see where both sides are coming from, and I think a good conversation between both sides will sort of air things out and make it better, hopefully. Do you think Noah Gragson or Ty Gibbs will win Rookie of the Year, says Ryan Perez? That's a good question. We have to first find out if they're both going to be cleared to run for Rookie of the Year. But if I had to put money on it right now, I would say Noah Gragson, because, and here's why. Toyota is going to have a new nose. They're going to have some probably growing pains with that new nose. And Ford is also going to have a new nose. And I think they're going to have growing pains with that. Chevrolet is going to be the only team that is going to be able to go back to their notes of the car that they had this year and still have some data that they can use. So I think maybe the first quarter to the first half of the season, Noah Gragson is going to have an advantage from there. But other than that, I think it is going to be super close, razor thin, as far as which one of those guys wins the championship or the Rookie of the Year. Not the championship. Which one of those guys wins Rookie of the Year? And I picked Noah Gragson. So now that I picked Noah Gragson, I'm probably wrong, and Ty Gibbs will win it. But that is my initial thoughts on it as of right now. The way too early predictions for next season. Already picking Noah Gragson to win the Rookie of the Year. But that's why I feel like that way. I just feel like the Chevrolet teams are going to be a little bit ahead at the beginning of the season, unless one of these guys knocks the nose out of the park, at which point, NASCAR will nerf it if they come out guns blazing a little too fast from the start. Mark Wachowski says Mark Martin drove the Viagra car. The chassis was always too stiff and too hard to drive, says Mark Wachowski. I'm a big Mark Martin fan. And I see what you did there, but I can't comment on it past too much further than that. But I appreciate what you did there. Michael Honeychuck says too many beers and too many brats. So he appreciated it as well. Talking about Noah Gragson and of course my rock hard physique here. Y'all don't be hating on Noah's extra layer, says Bumblebee. I'm not hating. I'm just being real. A little cardio is going to be needed for some of these longer races in Cup, and hopefully he stays away from. Apparently, he said the what are they called? The Trulies or whatever he was drinking, the seltzers. He said he didn't have a problem throwing up until he started pounding seltzers. So hopefully he stays away from them as well. ML William 213 says Mark Martin was also really stiff competition. Mark Wachowski said he was hard to beat. Old home guy says his fire suit is tighter because it gets extra every time he wins. Talking about he fills it up with some extra. That could be true. We're hitting peak chat right now. Peak chat. I will say I see potential in Noah, but he does need to change the way he drives, because again, it will make enemies in the garage, and you do not want to make other drivers mad where they will want to wreck you. I think that's also going to be something that's very important going forward. All these guys that are running through each other, I think it is very going forward. I think after this penalty we've seen with Bubba Wallace, I think going forward it's going to be very interesting to see which guys actually retaliate on the racetrack and which guys do not retaliate on the racetrack, or girls in the case of Haley Deegan. I think that's going to be interesting, because are they going to take the cue given from NASCAR that we're not going to deal with this anymore, Or are they still going to be hard-headed and intentionally wreck people? I think that's going to be a big test going forward next season too. Will these guys give payback on the track, and what happens if they do? That's also going to be an interesting story to follow. The first Martinsville race was boring. What's going to change about this one? Says Don McLeese, they've had an extra test day. Hopefully Goodyear comes with another tire, and also they have a better understanding of this car and what it does. That being said, I don't have really high hopes, but I'm hoping it's better than the last race. The temperature will be a little bit different, but other than that, I don't know how much is actually going to change. I hope it's not as hard to pass, but NASCAR has not budged on the short track package, so I'm not as hopeful. But I'm not going to go in there with a negative mindset either. Just going in there with an open mindset and hoping for the best. But expectations are low as far as hoping for the best. So I don't know. I don't like him because personally, I don't like anything Gibbs family related. They ain't as honest as they make out to be, says Bumblebee. That has been a common criticism. A lot of people don't like, they don't think the actions match up to the post-race celebration for the Gibbs gang. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to question anybody's what they believe or whatnot like that. But there is a criticism that they act one way in public and behind the scenes, they will do you dirty. That is a common criticism of people that do not care for Joe Gibbs Racing or the Joe Gibbs organization or the family or whatnot. So that's how Larson wins so many races. He weighs 98 pounds and it gives him the jockey effect, not the anchor effect like Jimmy Spencer. It just depends on the track, Sonny V. Maybe that's why he's not good at short tracks. He doesn't have that extra left side weight. Not that it will be extra, but you can, move it around. If you're lighter, you can get the weight lower, helping the center of gravity, yada, yada, yada. Boring stuff. Nobody cares. Dwayne Lawson says, are you going to the Martinsville race this weekend? I will be at the Martinsville race. I will be filming, so feel free to come up if you want to get on camera. We'll get you on camera. I'm going to do a Martinsville vlog. Hopefully, I'm not going to drop the camera this time, and I'll be able to finish it. But even if I drop it, I'll just finish it on my phone. So we'll get something going. I got some ideas for what I want to do, but I'm going to go and look at everything at Martinsville and try to get it on film and talk about everything. And I'll get a little bit of the race footage, but I'm not going to stand and film the whole race. That would be ridiculous. So let's see. ML Williams says +1 on hating all things Gibb, especially the smaller man named Ty. Let's see. Speedway Anywhere says, here's a question for you. You probably answered it about, but what about Haley moving up? Sure, she's not making headlines, but she's not ruffling feathers either. Says Speedway Anywhere. I think her going to the Xfinity Series, those cars suit her driving style better. So I think she's going to have a better chance of showing what she can do talent-wise. Like I've said, not every vehicle suits every driver's driving style. We've seen that with IndyCar. We know Jimmy Johnson's a good race car driver. He's done it in dirt trucks. He was the man for a period of time in NASCAR, and he went over to IndyCar, and it could be old age. It could just be the way he's not used to driving that car or whatever, but that car does not suit the way he drives for whatever reason. So no matter how good you are as a driver, unless you're just one of these special talents like a Mario Andretti, a AJ Foyt, a Tony Stewart, Kyle Larson, somebody like that, it's going to be very hard for most people to go from vehicle to vehicle or different types of race car to different types of race car. So I think long way to get there, but I think Haley Deegan, part of the reason she's struggled in trucks is because the trucks don't suit her. So I think she'll have a better go of it in the Xfinity Series. So I'm high on her. I think she'll have better results over there than she had in trucks. If you know Mark, he'll forgive and they'll move on. He's not a grudge holding type of man. I hope so. Because I definitely think his feelings were hurt by that for sure. Talking about Mark Martin and Castrol sort of barring RFK allegedly from speaking with Mark Martin on the day he was being honored at Las Vegas in his favorite race car. Michael Honeychuck says hitting because it was a Valvoline car and Castrol is Castrol and they're competing brands. Michael Honeychuck says heading to Martinsville tomorrow, camping this week. That's what's up, Michael. I will be there for the Xfinity race, so come check me out for the Xfinity race if you can find me. I will probably most likely be hanging out in the merchandise area, walking around, probably mulling what I'm possibly thinking about buying. Hopefully I don't buy anything because I don't need to buy any more stuff. But hopefully I won't buy anything, but I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. I will stay overnight. I'm not technically camping. I'll be sleeping in the truck, in a pop-up truck bed tent. But I will, and I'm taking like a little Wi-Fi unit. Hopefully I'll be able to get videos up, but if not, I'll get them done that Monday or Tuesday. Whenever I get back, I'll work on them some Sunday or Monday, because the race is Sunday. Duh. But hopefully I will get that handled. But if you're there, look out for me. Like I said, I'll probably be hanging out mostly around the merchandise tents and the food and stuff like that. Dakota Henderson says, since lack of tire wear seems to have been an issue this year, how would you feel about A-belts, multiple tire compounds? How would you feel about multiple tire compounds? I got you. Autocorrect got you there, Dakota Henderson. Gets me all the time, and I can't stand it. Let's see. Sort of what they do in F1, and I think sometimes in dirt too. I would be for that. It would add another layer to it, and it would be more fun to watch. So I think multiple tire compounds would be a good idea. Where you're going to get pushback on that from is a lot of people want racing to be more green. So if you're bringing multiple tires to the track and they're not being used, you're sort of going to get pushback on that. That's going to be very interesting to see how they would pull that off. So, you know, like anything, one solution for one problem creates another problem somewhere else. So that would be the only thing off the top of my head that I could think of that would create pushback. The new Mustang is for 2024. It says Flash Racing Entertainment. Okay, well, I thought it was coming next season. So I'm off on that one. Bumblebee says, Don McLeese, I've been seeing it for years, all the way back to how they did Bobby Labonte. I forgot what you guys were talking about. What's up? Love the content. Sven Larson is with us. Good to have you on, as always, Sven. Mark Barnum, Speedway, my guess is that Stewart Haas Racing will bring back the 00 or put her in the 07. Most likely they'll put her in the 07, if I had to guess, and then, you know, sort of move her up from there. Much like they did Cole Custer. So she would start off in the 07 and then go to the 00 once she got it down over there. Jimmy 9531, he should be on the Fox or NBC broadcast next year, talking about Mark Martin. He definitely, if he wants to do it, I definitely think he should. Stapleton 42 made an awesome video about the Mark Martin car. It's a must watch if you're a Mark Martin fan. Says M. William 213. I agree with that. And he also, I think he's got two of them, but he's got another one, and it might be the same one, but he's got another one where Mark Martin actually talks to him. So definitely check it out. Stapleton 42 has got a really good channel if you are not aware of him. But hopefully you are, because he's got way more subscribers and views than I do. Sonny V, they probably should have called Mark Martin and explained the whole sponsor conflict. I agree with you, Sonny V. A little bit of preemptive conversation could have avoided all of that drama. I'm with you 100% on that. Douglas Serrano, I want to see 20 different winners. I would love to see 20 different winners, maybe 21 if we get lucky. Just 2 different winners for the end of the season, too. Mark Barnum says, I have a Mark Martin fishing lure, Valvoline by Rapala. I remember those, Mark Barnum. That would be circa maybe 2004, 2005, somewhere in there, if I'm not mistaken. Michael Honeychuck says, I lift weights every day. 40-ounce curls. Oh, 40s. 40s, Michael Honeychuck. Good Lord, man. Earned it, LOL. 0 credit, bought and paid for. Wow, 40-ounce curls. That's legit. I could never do the 40s. The beer got too warm before I finished it. I always drink the first couple slow, and then they go down faster after that, allegedly. Aaron Flynn, do you think Toyota is trying to keep John Hunter Nemechek, or will they go to the revamped KBM? They got him back in Victory Lane. David Wilson, is that the TRD guy's name? He said that he said that John Hunter Nemechek is in the Toyota fold. That's a guy they want to keep under contract, and he's still under contract. So he is going to stay with Toyota at least through next year. So he's going to be with Toyota next year, and that'll be yeah. So I'm thinking he stays with Toyota. However, he is a part. Last time I checked, at least, he is still part of the Dillon Management Group. And obviously, you would assume the Dillon Management Group would have an inside route to KBM and the trucks at KBM. So it's just sort of, I think it's sort of how it falls there. But I don't think he really wants to run trucks anymore. So I'm thinking he sticks with Toyota and goes cup racing with them at some point, either at 2311 or at Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think that's part of the reason you saw Chandler Smith move away from Toyota, because I think he saw the writing on the wall that Sammy Smith, Corey Heim, John Hunter Nemechek are all going to be guys that are in front of him as far as getting a ride goes. That's why he went over there and got with the Collick gang on the Chevrolet side of things instead of Toyota. Noah is hanging out with Junior at the beer shed, says Greg Stanton. Stanton, I keep calling you Stanton. I'm so sorry. There was a baseball player for the Atlanta Braves called Greg Stanton. Or Mike Stanton, and I keep wanting to call you Stanton, but Stanton, and I appreciate you sticking with me, even though I keep getting your name wrong, but I apologize. Mark Wachowski says Noah will be just fine. As for weight gain, a couple of races in July and August will have him down to his fighting weight, no doubt about it. And Tony Stewart made it work for a long time, so there is something to be said about it's more mental than physical, but it's a lot easier if you're in physically good shape. Noah is Tim Richmond. Noah is Tim Richmond light, and I think NASCAR needs that type of personality. To be honest, I think he's Tim Richmond heavy. If we're gonna go that route, he is the king of beers. He is not the Bud Light of beers. Let's see, and I don't know what's heavier than beer. I'm liquor in that situation, I guess. Bumblebee, don't ever compare Noah Gragson to Tim Richmond. That just made me cringe, but he is like Tim Richmond. He opens his fire suit up like that. I think Tim Richmond is one of the guys that Noah Gragson idolizes. So you can definitely see the comparisons. Now, talent-wise, there's probably nobody on this planet other than, say, like Dale Earnhardt Sr. And guys like that were on the talent level of Tim Richmond. So, it is what it is. Unlike Gregson, Molten Rage says, unlike Gregson, at least Tim Richmond was a respectful man that wouldn't wreck you 24/7. So maybe respectful on the racetrack, but he was wide open outside of the racetrack, and that's what we're talking about. Their personality outside of the racetrack is pretty similar. NASCAR weight is with drivers started in the Mark Martin days. Says old home guy. That's right, because Mark Martin was so light. They could really rearrange weight however they wanted to. Molten and Bumblebee having a nice little chat between each other. Let y'all read that. Michael Honeychuck, Tim Richmond went both ways. I don't know about that, Michael. So it is what it is. And I was laughing at the Molten conversation there. I don't care which way anybody goes. Douglas Serrano, Noah has more wins than Ty Gibbs in Xfinity this year. No doubt about it. So, I mean, it is what it is. Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson are basically going to be the futures of their organizations, along in Noah Gregson's case with Eric Jones. They're building something over there at Petty GMS. So it is what it is. Charlotte Anders says, I made it late, but I made it. Good to have you on, Charlotte. But also, Ty Gibbs is going to be the future for his. So this is one of those situations where this rivalry is going to go for a really long time. And if Josh Berry can get up to the Cup Series with Junior Motorsports, add him to that mix as well. So I think you're going to have a good one for a long time between those three drivers. If they all get up there, sponsorship, always an issue. M. William 213 says, Noah did a throwback to Tim, complete with the open fire suit. So there you go. That is where the comparison come from for Tim Richmond and Noah Gragson. Tim Richmond was willing to put other drivers at risk by racing when he shouldn't have been. Says ML William 213. That is so that is partially true if he couldn't if he wasn't physically able to do it. But part of also where that came from is drivers were concerned about the prescription medication he was taking, because sort of during that era, NASCAR had this stigma of what was going on with Tim Richmond, and they didn't understand it. Nobody understood it back then. So the prescription medication he was taking, they said, didn't match up to the substance abuse policy or the substances you could take in NASCAR. So, and all of that stuff, probably going to get me dinged on YouTube. So I don't know how far I can get into that. But basically, that's where that came from, because one of those prescription drugs that he took made him go positive for a test. And that's when you saw drivers like Richard Petty, among others. I remember there was always a famous Richard Petty quote. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but they were like, they don't want to be racing with an addict because that was the stigma that went with that. So there was a lot of that feeling that Tim Richmond was putting people in danger. But in retrospect, looking back on it, that's mostly where it came from. So I don't think he was really putting people in danger on the racetrack. But it is what it is. I'm not telling anybody how to think. Think your own thoughts. Via Mike, hey, I was at the Miami stream. I'm actually going to this race. Real excited. I went to Martinsville race earlier this year too. Ended up being the most boring, says Via Mike. I think this one will be okay. I wouldn't sweat it too much. They've had a longer time to work with these cars. I think you will see more passing. You will get the trickle down from the people who had good setups, so where everybody will have the good setup. You saw Austin Dillon and William Byron and Ross Chastain go through the field. Probably all of the Chevrolets will have a setup similar to that now, and they will all be able to drive through the field. There were 4 drivers like Cole Custer who had a tire issue. Cole Custer was actually able to work through the field too until that loose tire. So the Fords will have that setup to pull from. There will be setups of cars that could go through the field. So I don't expect it to be quite as bad as what Denny Hamlin is expecting, but I also don't think it's going to be a classic Martinsville race. So I'm not getting my hopes up real high, but I'm not going to have my hopes real low. I'm going to sort of go in there and expect a mid-race, and that's what it's going to be. Via Mike, if you see me there, though, feel free to throw up a hand and say what's up, because I will be there also checking it out myself. Old home guy, Briscoe, this weekend for the win. Hopefully he does get the win. That would be cool. Because that would be upset city, no doubt about it. Stupid Roofer says, holy balls, I lived up to my name today. I sent 1 1/4 roofing nail right through my middle finger. Good Lord, it hurts. I can't type. I had to step out and get a 6-pack. There, little pain relief. Nothing wrong with that. I hate you did that to your finger, buddy. So hopefully it gets better soon. And you can keep driving nails into things that aren't attached to your body. But that sucks. Hope you get better, buddy. Let's see. I'd like to see Truex win Martinsville. He's always strong in the hills. Says Ken Bogus. Ken Bogus. I'm going to go with Bogus. So yeah, Martin Truex, this is one of his better tracks, and he could definitely get it done. Obviously, him and Joe Logano, he was going to probably win that race, and then he won the race there the year he won the championship. The year before. So Mark Wachowski says Stapleton 42 has a really good show. He likes history. Yeah, Stapleton 42, one of the best channels out there. He's also got some really cool merchandise, like his Stapleton 42 t-shirt and hats. Look like the old Goodwrench hats. So if you're into that type of stuff, check him out. Really good stuff going on over there. One day I will have good merch. I do have merch somewhere. What's it called? Teespring. I have merch there, so go to the Bologna Burger store, Bologna Burger Media store on Teespring. I do have merch over there. And I actually remembered to say it this time. Once a month, I do remember to pump the merchandise. Speaking of something that needs to be discussed, is Martin Truex Jr. cursed this year? Like I swear, he could be the most dominant car and lose the race somehow. What has he done to deserve this? I don't get it. I don't know. Him and Ryan Blaney have had a lot of misfortune. Some of it, a lot of it brought on by themselves in Blaney's case, and Martin Truex Jr.'s case. It's just been one of them years some people have. Dale Earnhardt Sr. in 1992 had one of those years, ended up like 12th or 16th in points. He does 1 40-ounce curl, just one, says Rusty Beechwood. Yeah, just go ahead and finish it one time. 40 hands, if anybody's ever played that game. That's a fun one, but I won't get much further than that. Any thoughts on John Nemechek choking embarrassingly again? Says ML William 213. Are you talking about the Truck Series race or his opportunity in the Cup Series because he did not have a good weekend. So bad luck for him. I think he just gets too amped up in those situations, or it just could be a situation where it's just something that happens at the wrong time and makes it look like he gets too amped up. But it is what it is. Bumblebee says, Al, stupid roofer, feeling your pain on that nail injury. Old home guy, we need more beer, whiskey, vodka, and other drink sponsorship. Yeah, Cole Custer's vodka is pretty good. Have sampled that before. Old Jack Daniels car was a classic scheme. Do you think there are any racetracks that Gregson has a shot to win at next year? You would have to say Homestead, Miami. He's pretty good at those. Tracks where you rip the top. He's pretty good. He's pretty much a 1.5 guy. So that's where I would look for a win. He's not just that, but that's where his main strength lies. So I would look for a 1.5, maybe somewhere like a Michigan. And then anywhere that Petty GMS is good at, if he can get the hang of Martinsville, don't count him out of Martinsville. Petty GMS is pretty good at Martinsville normally, historically. So, yeah, I see him with a chance to win. And, of course, Ty Gibbs is going to have a chance to win too. So I see both of them with chances to win next season. I'm excited for Martinsville. I hope it doesn't end up like last time, but since it's a playoff race, got to get that top four. So it's going to be rough racing. I think so too. I think they're going to be moving each other out of the way. I think it's going to be no holds bars. Stupid Roofer says the finger is very uncomfortable, Bumblebee. So yep, keep Stupid Roofer in your thoughts and prayers, or whatever you do when you think about somebody being injured. Noah, straight up Goon Squad off the track. LOL, pretty accurate if you follow his Instagram. How did Molten Rage get his name? Mark Wachowski is asking. Duh. So Molten, if you want to drop how you got your name, feel free. If not, don't feel pressured to do so. Scott Blazy, hello. How are you doing today? Doing good, Scott. Hope you are as well. Speedway Anywhere says Stapleton is awesome. I wish I had the budget to do what he does. Yeah, for sure. He's got a great channel if you haven't checked it out. So definitely check out Stapleton 42. He does vlogs. It's sort of a combination. It's a little bit of NASCAR history. It's a little bit of a vlog, and then sort of while you're getting the history, he's actually going to the location of what he's talking about most of the time, or at least all the videos I've seen. Joey for the win 321 says, what's up? Best live stream around by far. Appreciate it, Joey. And I'll try to keep them going as long as I can. Houston Hokut, what's going on? Epileptic Bumblebee says, as a fellow human being, get better soon. So both moderators are banged up, fighting through it. They're on the injured list, but they're performing at playoff level. So we appreciate that. We appreciate both of the mods. Show them some love in the chat with a thumbs up if you would like to. Speaking of thumbs up, if you want to lick that like button, I would appreciate that as well. I'm up for Kyle Busch having a JGR burning party, suits, hats, and shirts, old home guy says. Well, instead of just burning it, maybe he sells it on eBay and helps fund that Truck Series team or whatever he needs to do. But it will be interesting to see what happens when he actually leaves. If they still they're playing friendly right now, will they still play friendly next season? So no fourth manufacturer in the foreseeable future. I guess John Lewis. As of right now, nobody is being rumored. Probably the closest would be Honda, but they're probably going to have to work on Honda pretty good to get them in there. I think Honda's interested though, but it'll be post 2024 before we see a move made. What about Austin Hill? Maybe to KBM. I think Austin Hill will drive some KBM trucks for sure. I also think at some point he will be the third RCR car. So I think RCR is still toying with the idea of having three cars. But yeah, I expect to see him and Austin Dillon both in KBM trucks this season. Everyone will race their butts off at Martinsville, says Douglas Serrano. I think so too. I think it'll be vastly different race just because of the stakes that are there. So it is what it is. Rusty Beachwood said Richmond was like a rock star who died too soon. He was one hell of a race car driver. I agree with that 100%. So I've showed you the Hendrick hat, the old school Hendrick hat that I wear. That was the first Hendrick hat. It was given to me. My dad was friends with the tire specialist at Hendrick at the time. He ended up being Jeff Gordon's tire specialist. His name's Billy Chandler. he gave me my first 2 NASCAR hats, and one of them was that old school Hendrick hat you have. The other one is one that I don't have anymore because I wore it out. But it was a T.G. Shepherd Folgers hat of Tim Richmond. It was burgundy, and it had the patch, but the patch had gold trim around it. Really cool hat. So I wasn't even old enough to know what was going on, but Tim Richmond was technically one of the first drivers I pulled for, even though I didn't know it. I just had the hat on my head, I guess. But I wore that hat for a long time because it was just so cool. And, you know, after the fact, you know, you saw how great Tim Richmond was and how tragic that whole story was when it went down. Mark Bukowski says NASCAR should be worried about the medication that Brian France was on. Yeah, I think they did get worried about it, but they worried about it too late. That being said, the Brian France era looks like the good old days compared to moments in this season, at least the last month. Speed nailing has its downside, says Stupid Roofer. Blaney needs a win this weekend, doesn't he, to stay in it? Old Home Guy says. I think he can still mathematically get in there, Old Home Guy. But if not, he definitely needs a win. I think he's at like 33 points. So if he could get like a good amount of stage points, he would get it down to something like manageable. He could make something happen. But yeah, basically he needs a win to get in. 33 points is pretty aggressive. If he won 2 stages, that would knock it down to what, 13. So he would still need 13 spots over somebody. So yeah, he's going to need a little help. With Kyle Larson making Phoenix, does he accidentally bump Bubba if he's nearby, or is it better to avoid any contact and not jeopardize his final round participation? I think Kyle Larson is over it. I don't think he's even thinking about it. I think he's more focused on getting the Owners' Championship, even though he's eliminated from the Drivers' Championship. I think his words were telling after the win. He was talking about the Owners' Championship almost immediately. So I think his eyes are on the prize as far as that goes. So I think that's what he's focused on, without a doubt. So I don't think he's even. And he said he's over the Bubba Wallace thing. He doesn't need an apology. That they've all done things similar to that in the past. He understands where he's coming from. I don't think he's even thinking about it. I think he's done with it on his side. I think that's actually what he said at one point, if I'm not mistaken. Don't remind me of what Martinsville race. Please, God, we had a chance to top 5 or top 10, but of course the pit crew choked. I swear. We have the same pit crew as Deegan. So that's a good point with some of Haley Deegan's truck results. Her pit crew has at times let her down just a bit. Douglas Serrano and Cole Custer for sure had a fast car, and hopefully he has a fast car this weekend for you, Moulton, as well. Chastain needs stage points. Blaney wins Martinsville, calling it already. So yeah, Douglas Serrano. If Chastain can get some stage points, he's basically locked in. He's going to have a catastrophic failure to not be locked in my opinion, which is not out of the question. But he ran pretty good there in the earlier race, and if he has similar results to that, he's going to be a lock. I can't see Larson ever getting revenge on Bubba. He doesn't seem to care at all. I don't think Larson thinks about anything besides winning. ML William 213, ding, ding, ding. I agree with you, and that's what makes him and Jimmy Johnson early on when he was focused in his career. That's what made them special. You never remember. The only time I remember Jimmy Johnson getting in anybody's face was at the end of his career when he got in Ryan Blaney's face. And I'm sure somebody is going to have like another time, but of those times, they would be few and far between because he didn't worry about payback. He worried about winning the next race because he knows that winning is the best payback. And at that time, during that era, he could win the next race. And sort of that's how he put it in people's face back then. So I think that is always the best revenge, is to go out there and just have a good race the next race and just beat them on the racetrack and not worry about all that nonsense. Ghost, old Harry Gant Skull Bandit car, good review on Stapleton 42. I think that is the last one I saw. That was the last episode I saw, so that is definitely a good one. Question for all going to Martinsville this weekend. Wallace is going to get booed. Oh, he always gets booed, Rusty Beachwood, out of the stratosphere. I, for one, will be part of it. So, yeah, he's polarizing. He has a lot of fans. He has a lot of people that are not fans. So, for sure, he was booed probably the second loudest or maybe third loudest out of anybody. I think he was the second loudest. The first loudest that got booed there was Ty Gibbs, and that was literally right after what he did. I've never heard And this was an Xfinity size crowd, by the way. But I have never heard anybody get booed, and this includes Dale Earnhardt. I have never heard anybody get booed as loud as Ty Gibbs got booed at Martinsville during that Xfinity altercation and stuff like that. But Bubba Wallace did get booed pretty good at Martinsville. He was probably second, and I would say Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin were third and fourth. And I was surprised at Denny Hamlin because that is basically like a home track for Denny Hamlin. So I was actually kind of, I mean, I know Denny Hamlin gets booed a lot of places, but I wasn't expecting him to get booed quite that loud at Martinsville. So that one sort of took me by surprise. But the other ones, if you've gone to other races, you sort of expect it. They're going to get booed. John Hunter Nemechek choked in the truck race. All he had to do was keep the truck clean and get some stage points. Yep, but he's not set up to do that. He's trying to go for wins. And when you're going for wins, sometimes you put it on the edge and you go over that edge and you don't come back. And that's what he did. I understand what he did, but what he did wasn't smart. So in the future, hopefully he races a lot more intelligently in those situations. Skull Bandit car is the best looking race car of all time, says ML William 213. For sure, mainly because it was owned by that guy right there by my thumb, old Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham, at least at first, before they sold out to Leo Jackson. So one wise guy says, when you make a trip out to the west, make sure it's Sonoma race, bud. I would like to go to Sonoma for sure, one wise guy, but I will be out at Phoenix. I bought my tickets the other day. So for sure, Phoenix is confirmed. We'll be on the way, and I'll be in a similar situation with the truck camping action going on. So I will be at Phoenix, hopefully for the entire weekend. Landon Pimbleton is racing in the ARCA race. So I'm going to be there for the ARCA race, rooting him on, cheering him on. So if you want to come out to the ARCA race, I'll be at that one too, and pull for my buddy Landon. Good dude, good guy for sure. And I'll check out, obviously, hopefully I'll be able to check out the entire championship weekend, and hopefully I get to see a lot of people race. Lane Riggs, another short track guy. Ironically, those two guys sort of got into a dust up after the South Boston race, but Lane Riggs will be there as well. He'll be racing in the Truck Series for Halmar Friesen as well. So there will be some short track guys there. And of course, Tom Majeski, short track guy, he is in the championship. Ryan Gallagher, yeah, Stapleton getting a lot of love. Yes. So Stapleton 42. If you're not following him, dude has an awesome channel. He goes on the road and goes to a lot of historical sites, and he gives you the full historical backstory to all of them. My favorite one, and it's because I'm a Petty fan. It's not necessarily because it's the better episode or whatever like that, but he goes to the Richard Petty Museum, which is the old Randleman where Richard Petty Motorsports used to be, or Petty Enterprises back in the day, Petty Engineering, if you go back far enough to Lee Petty. But he actually talks with a lot of the people there, and one of the people there that he talks to, of course, is the 8-time championship crew chief. So check that one out. That is probably the best one that I've seen, or I got the most out of, because it was just a really cool seeing them chat. And also, if you get a chance to visit it, they've got tons of merchandise, and it's all autographed by Richard Petty. So that's a cool trip to make. If you watch the video and enjoy that video and want to check it out for yourself. Alan Williams, the Philadelphia Phillies are winning the World Series. I hope so, because I'm not an Astros fan. I'm a New York Yankees fan. They ran through my New York Yankees, and I didn't like it, and I don't appreciate it. And so I am hoping the Phillies win, even though they've got Bryce Harper, who I don't really care for. So it is what it is. But my first baseball game ever was at the Vet, and it was a Phillies-Mets game. So that was a piece of crap stadium, without a doubt. But I loved every minute of it because it was my first baseball game, first professional Major League Baseball game. I went to a ton of Durham Bulls games, ironically. I got that T-shirt on today. I went to a ton of Durham Bulls games as a kid. One of my favorite things to do in the summertime, go to Durham Bulls games and then go to Orange County for the races. That was a good weekend. 07 chat, thumbs up. Chat says stupid roofer. Rusty Beechwood booing, not voting. Thumbs up for the mods. I'm just now getting to that part of it. See, so let me scroll down a little bit because I done got pretty far behind. Ghost says Days of Thunder is my favorite documentary. So I'm glad you brought that up because they're actually, in a way, that is a documentary. It's a collection of stories that they made a movie out of. Great hat stories with your pops, says Rusty Beechwood. I appreciate it, man. Ty Dillon to the 77. Is that going to be a Chevy or a Toyota? I think it's going to be a Chevy, pretty sure. Because I'm pretty sure they're going to get help from RCR, and I'm pretty sure Richard Childress, whether Ty Dillon knows it or not, has funded that ride. So it is what it is. Aaron Flynn, Ty Dillon to the 77. Oh, I just read that. Sonny V, would you take France back in a heartbeat, medicated or not, says Sonny V. So there you go. Looking for the good old days of Brian France. Blaney is 18 out. He can do So I was off about that. There's two that are basically in winter go home. So Blaney is only 18 points out, so he's good. So he just needs to have a good day at Martinsville, which he is capable of as long as he keeps his head about him. He's another one that puts too much pressure on himself at times. Mark Wachowski says, yeah, I want France back, Bill France. So yeah, definitely that was probably the best era. Let's see. Sonny V says Larson is going to stay as far away from Wallace as possible. I think it's over with. I think both of them are sort of past it, hopefully. I know Kyle Larson is, and I'm pretty sure after watching Kyle Larson win, Bubba Wallace is probably refocused and will put his eyes on the prize as well. Chris Tombstone says, so you mean to tell me that this weekend is not the championship race? I thought Homestead was the next to last race. We got Martinsville and then Phoenix. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be fun for sure. Ken says, I just saw the plans for the All-Star Week in North Wilkesboro next May. This is going to be huge. 5 days of racing for sure. I think it's going to be a blast, and hopefully it goes off without a hitch. And hopefully they get some work done to that place because it's not quite ready for prime time just yet. 45 car is on very thin ice, treading lightly. Everyone is watching, says Home Guy. Yeah, he might have an Ernie Irvin moment where he addresses the entire garage or something. You never know. That'll probably be the last part of this story if he addresses the garage this weekend. I recall Jimmy Johnson late in his career have words with Ryan Newman. Possibly CPO Fast Forward said Jimmy Johnson had it with Kurt at Pocono a few years back. Yeah, but that was toward the end of his career. When he was actually in his prime and winning, you didn't really see him have too many words for too many people. He just focused on the next race, typically. John Lewis says Denny is worth booing. That was Chris Tombstone. It says that something tells me AJ Allmendinger is going to win the championship next year. He could. He's got to be one of the favorites. Just experience and the way he's run in his limited starts. It's gonna be good. Epileptic Bumblebee says Ross was racing Denny as hard as he possibly could at Homestead, and I was eating that up. LOL. Ross was racing everybody as hard as possible. Him and AJ Allmendinger put on probably the greatest. As far as this new car goes, that is probably some of the best side by side racing that we've seen with this new car. Those two just absolutely going at it. And at points when they were racing each other, they were actually still catching Kyle Larson. That's how hard they were going. Both of those guys put those cars on the absolute ragged edge of control. And eventually Ross Chastain lost control of his, and that's how AJ got by him. And then Ross Chastain came and passed him back a little bit later. So that was a great race that those guys had. And it lasted almost until the very end of the race. So it was great. And then, of course, who was it? Was Denny Hamlin? At one point, Denny Hamlin was in that mix, and they went like 3 wide. Like it was wide open. And to Bumblebee's point, Ross was giving Denny he was given just as good as he was getting. We'll put it that way. Mitchell Stapleton's girlfriend is kind of cute too. So if that's your thing, says Speedway Anywhere. So one vote for Stapleton 42's girlfriend as well. He likes the co-host on that show. Stupid Roofer, he will definitely make the Final Four. Chris Tombstone, he's a man on a mission. So there you go. Another vote for Chastain. Nick or Blaney, I'm sorry. I think we're talking about Blaney there, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Next year, all I know is that the most booed drivers are going to be the 1. I don't know about that. The 11, yeah. The 23 for sure. Whoever's in the 18, which is probably Ty Gibbs for sure, and the 8. That's I'm going to be interested to see how people receive Kyle Busch now that he is he's on sort of a redemption arc. He got thrown away from Toyota, and a lot of people were only booing him because he was in a Toyota. So I'm interested to see how many boos the 8 gets and the 42 Noah Gragson, mainly because people do not like those drivers, and people are still going to boo Kyle Busch because it's Kyle Busch. So he answered the question before if I just read the question, he answered it before I gave my opinion on it. So yeah, I don't know if Noah Gragson will get booed, but I think you're right about all of them except for maybe Chastain. And I'm going to be interested to see if Kyle Busch, he'll get a few boos, but I want to see if he gets as many boos as he's been getting. Douglas Serrano says Denny will have redemption at Martinsville. He could. Denny Hamlin is pretty much in the modern era of drivers that are still driving. Denny Hamlin, I think, is the most accomplished driver at Martinsville as it stands now. But I'd have to look at that. But off the top of my head, I think he is the winningest driver actively. Speedway Anywhere, I couldn't say Stapleton's girlfriend is kind of cute, says M. William 213. So the co-host for Stapleton 42 has a fan club. I can't say that I've ever seen her in the episodes I've watched, or I was getting up to get a Coke or something when she was on. I've heard her voice. I'll take it back. She might have been in the Darrell Waltrip episode that I was watching. Anywho, Denny ain't winning nothing. Eating that choke pie again. Dust's off shoulder. So Bumblebee, anti-Denny Hamlin on the anti-Denny Hamlin train. Molten Rate says, I mean, in defense of last year, the 11 did get ran over. You would be mad about that. So here we go. We've got the 48 and the 11 fan clubs having a chat about what happened last year. One wise guy says, hit that like button. I would appreciate that if you would want to do that. If not, don't worry about it. Old Home Guy says Stapleton 42 also has an all-wheel drive 1,600 horsepower Cadillac Escalade. Yeah, some of his earlier stuff, or at least I guess it's earlier, some of his earlier stuff was just sort of like builds and stuff that he was messing with. But he's sort of gotten into the NASCAR history recently. Rusty Beechwood, Denny is just unlikable. Food at Richmond too. See, I find that fascinating. The times I went to Richmond were before sort of the Denny Hamlin being a villain was a thing. And he didn't get booed at Richmond, but I find that interesting that even at his home tracks, he gets booed. I don't know. I mean, I get it. He's sort of a smart aleck and stuff like that, but a lot of the Denny Hamlin hate, I don't necessarily always get. The vet was also the worst NFL venue of all time. The player said the field was like playing on concrete, says Sonny V. Yeah, and also, I don't have a statistic for this, but I'm also fairly close to 100% sure it led the league in injuries every season in baseball, football, flag football, field hockey, whatever. Because it seems like every time you watched a game there, somebody was blowing out a knee. So yeah. Greg Staten says, Tampa Bay Rays fan here. I like the Durham Bulls. Right on. Hopefully we send you guys some more talent. For the longest time, we were a Braves affiliate, and we sent them a lot of their talent that you saw in those 90s World Series. More recently, we've been sending it to the Tampa Bay Rays. We've won a lot of titles on our end, so I don't know what they got going on. Maybe you need a new manager, but we've been getting the job done on our end. Maybe they need to call up some more guys. M. William 213 says Denny is a tool, but I'm thankful for him at super speedways. He refuses to stay in line. Those races would look a lot different without him. I agree with that 100%. He sort of he's one of those guys that has the cachet to get the lines moving, and so I do appreciate him for that. And like but he does have a lot of people that do not care for him. Brian France was far from perfect on and off television, but damn, he was better than Steve Phelps. I'll die on that hill. I'll join you on that hill and fight side by side. Nothing against Steve Phelps. I just don't like him. How about that for a quote? It is what it is, though. He needs to, if he wants it to be the NFL, he needs to go back to the NFL. And here's if you look at Stupid Roofer, he's got the link to Stapleton if you want to check out Stapleton 42 right there. Let's see. Sad that Nemechek won't be able to race for a truck championship this year, says Douglas Serrano. I agree. Whether you like Nemechek or not, he's had the best season, and now he's not even in the Final Four. So once again, the playoff format bites another guy. I mean, it is what it is. I don't quite want to make my last video for the year because I like to limit it to 2 or 3. I don't want to make my last video complaining about the playoffs to be about the Truck Series. I want to wait and hope that something happens in the Cup Series to make another complaining about the points video. We wouldn't even know who Denny is if it wasn't for Ross or Jeff Burton. I don't know, man. He's won a lot of races, John Lewis. But yeah, this season that has been the storyline, or one of the storylines for Denny Hamlin for sure. Aaron Flynn, any updates on Kurt or Alex's health? None as of yet. Just know that they're going to be out for the rest of this season, and hopefully Kurt Busch can get a few wins or a few races and come back and have a sort of a farewell for a few races in the future. Kyle Larson races the toughest guys in racing: sprint cars, midgets, outlaw, late models. So the dust up with Bubba is not a big deal to Kyle. Kyle has moved on and got a win, and that's it. And that's that. I agree. I think he races so much that he's been in those situations so many times that he knows that if you just stay calm and let it blow over, that is the fastest way to put an end to it. And I think that's pretty much been his strategy. And I agree with that. Denny in 2311 tampering, not a thing to be worried about. NASCAR, to my knowledge, with Reddick was beyond unprofessional. I never mentioned how unprofessional and in bad taste and form that was. I did. I made a whole video about it, and I got drug across the coals. But it was very bad on 2311's part. It was a bad way to go about everything they did. In my opinion, it was unprofessional. That's not how you handle your business, but that is how they decided to handle their business, and it is what it is. The backlash that came from it lost Tyler Reddick a lot of fans, and you're right. It did show negatively on Denny Hamlin, without a doubt. And I did make a video about that, so look that one up and check it out. Let's see. I'm just going to say it. No one's going to give for Kyle Busch for 2011 for Ron Hornaday Jr. And I'm the biggest Ron Hornaday Jr. fan there is. But yeah, you're right. Some people are not ever going to forget that one because that's just how NASCAR. That's how fans are. Period. But that's definitely how NASCAR fans are. But I'm over it. Ron Hornaday's not over it. I don't know that Ron Hornaday will ever be over it. But it is what it is. It's sort of weird that. From that aspect, the Kyle Busch is racing at RCR now, as RCR and DEI and Kevin Harvick Incorporated were also closely linked. My God, now I've got to put on my Bull Durham DVD. There you go. That's a good movie too. The other thing that the Durham Bulls are famous for is Bull Durham the movie. If you've never seen it and you like love stories or baseball movies, it's one of the best ones. Kyle Busch couldn't get any love at his hometown track. The fans were cheering when he lost the wheel, says Camaro 50. That's true. So it is interesting that these guys are, even at their home tracks, they don't get a lot of love. ML William 213, I feel like I should mention with all this talk about Stapleton, that Bologna Burger is my favorite NASCAR channel. Dude, don't worry about it. There are enough people to watch all of our channels, so I don't anytime you guys want to talk about another channel positively, I'm not going to ever bash anybody's channel. But if you want to talk about a channel that you guys enjoy on here, feel free to talk about it because it might be one that I haven't seen that I would enjoy watching. So yeah, I'm all for that. As far as that goes, and any creator watching that ever wants to use a sound clip, even if it's to like poke fun at me, I don't care. Go for it. I'm not going to be one of those crazy. Whatever they're called, give you a strike for using my content. I could care less. Do you think Eric Jones can make a deep championship run next year? I hope so. Ryan Perez. I hope so because I think they'll have the funding behind them, and I think they will get it done. But if we could get ML William 213 says, but if we could get Stapleton's girlfriend on here, I don't know, man. Go talk to them. I don't know. I don't even know how to broach that one. Y'all are getting wild, says Bumblebee. it would definitely probably improve the looks of the place. We'll at least say that. Denny is okay. He thinks everybody is messed up. Greg Staten says, for sure, everyone is searching for Yugo car for the 10K subscribers for BB. I appreciate that, old home guy. If y'all can find a Yugo at a reasonable price, I'm not paying any more than $500 for one. I'll tell you that right now. But if we can find a hull, all I need is the hull. We'll figure it out from there. Rusty Beechwood says he agrees with ML William 213 as far as this channel being the best for NASCAR Insight. I appreciate it. I do my best. I'm not perfect, but I try as good as I can every episode with the energy I've got for those episodes. Obviously, still do other stuff, so the energy is not as full some days as it is other days, but I do my best with the energy I have those days. So I appreciate all you for watching as well. Your kind words and support make this all worth it for sure. And I appreciate us getting to 8,000. So even if we never hit 10,000, just know that I appreciate that we're here right now doing this thing. What John Hunter Nemechek had a terrible new season for KBM. Standard wasn't even winning races. He's been off and on, and he's hurt his own chance by hitting the wall multiple times. His fault, not the system. Yeah, but also it's the system's fault, because if it was season-long points, like a normal championship would be given, you could hit the wall as many times as you want to, as long as you scored the most points. Just not a fan of the system. But you're right, he hasn't helped himself either. But that's just part of the deal. John Lewis, Denny complains so much. I'm surprised he hasn't been on The View yet, says John Lewis. That would be, what if there we go. That's a good question. If NASCAR had a version of The View, which 4 NASCAR drivers would be on the panel? Well, you've mentioned Denny Hamlin there, so drop it down in the comments. Who would be your panel of 4 for the NASCAR version of The View? Who would they be? Let me know down in the comments. I saw your video about Hamlin. I meant the other media peeps. Oh, I got you, Rusty Beechwood. Yeah, I was like, dude, I made one. I thought you were talking about. I never said anything about it. I was like, I definitely called him out about it, because like, nothing against 2311, but I hated losing Tyler Reddick. I was like, man, RCR is set for the future. We got Tyler Reddick, and then we lost Tyler Reddick, and I was like, oh, that sucks. I was like, I appreciate them. They went the extra mile to get Tyler Reddick, so good on them for getting him. But the execution of how they rolled out introducing him, yeah, that was not professional at all. And I was all over that. Yugo, yep, did a quick search and saw Doug DeMuro's site sold 3 of them recently. So hopefully they'll come down in price. I think we're driving it up with the power of this channel, though. There will probably be people trying to price jack the Yugos now that they know we're looking for one. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I will also settle for some form of Fiats, or someone mentioned a Crown Vic. So we will we'll have to get some others mentioned in there if we can't find a Yugo. Let's see. Mark Wachowski says booing is as good as clapping. It means everyone is watching you. I agree. As long as they're not being silent, right? That's what old Big E said back in the day. I don't care if they boo or cheer, as long as they're not sitting down being quiet. Aaron Flynn says, what is the third driver and track that Trackhouse is going to? Oh, that's a good question. I feel like it's going to be Jimmy Johnson and probably at the Chicago road course, or maybe Kurt Busch at the Chicago road course, depending on how things play out, if he can get a deal worked out with Toyota. But it'll be interesting to see. I think Jimmy Johnson, probably Project 91, Chicago, if I'm guessing. Let's see. I lost my spot. Here we go. Stupid Roofer says the chat's starting to get fun. Robin Mark says, I'm old. I've driven a Yugo, a Lada, and an owned Datsun. Let's see. I'll tell you what. I might have to make a Yugo video now. I might have to make one. I think I'm gonna. Let me think on it. Let me think of something we can do, because we are by far the 100% leader in Yugo content, or we can be. Sonny V says I'm old. I've driven one too. Greg Staten said put a Yugo body on a Legend chassis. Oh, that would be tough, man. That would be tough. Sonny V says Studebaker. Ironically enough, it wouldn't be anything I could mess with because of the price of it, but I had the opportunity to buy a Studebaker before I bought my race car and trailer and all that good stuff not too long ago. Mark Wachowski says, I subscribed around 67 viewers, 8,000. You've come a long way for sure. And I appreciate everybody that's been with me whenever you join me. Renault Lecar would work if we can't find a Yugo. It'll be a hard time finding a Renault as well in the States. But we will find something interesting. The Renault Lecar. I said Renault, which is hilarious. That's almost as bad as me saying Le Mans. Renault, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, Cole Custer, just for the other three to make fun of him for being bad, and also Kevin Harvick. So there's a solid view panel right there. A 270 says Stephen Roofer talking to Robin Marks. Hamlin and Elliott would be queen bees on the view. I don't know if Chase Elliott would do anything like the view. He seems like he doesn't want to say anything ever. One wise guy says Harvick, Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Dale Jr. Oh, Dale Jr. would be good on the view. Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Kyle Busch, and Jeff Burton. Jeff, there we go. If ever there has been a job for Jeff Burton, the NASCAR version of the view, Jeff Burton, go ahead and lock that one in. I like that one. So we're locked in with Jeff Burton. So now we need three more. I like that one. So Hamlin, Bubba. So far, a lot of Hamlins. So Hamlin and Jeff Burton seem to be very popular. Stupid Roofer going with the Dodge Omni. How about a Fiat 128, says Sonny V. So the Fiat 128 is what the Yugo is based on, in case nobody got that reference. So those are all good options as well. The view shouldn't be watched, says Old Home Guy. I mean, I agree with you there, but we're doing a fun version of the NASCAR view, and it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek. We're making fun of them as far as that goes. Stupid Roofer, I can't remember. We had two. One looked like a Lada. The other one was more sporty with a half-final roof. So they're trying to figure out the terrible cars. And Robin Marks, his version would be the Canadian version. So you might have some extra parts and pieces that we didn't get down here in the States. Let's see. What about a Ford Pinto? I knew where one of those was at too, Roger Riggs. Mark Wachowski's going Hamlin, Wallace, Elliott, and Suarez. Suarez would be interesting. I don't think he's afraid to say anything. Hershey's to sponsor Kyle Busch at RCR. Make it happen, people. Yeah, that's right. Let's see. My first car was a Datsun pickup. Datsun, now known as Nissan. Let's see. Sears used to sell cars. That would be cool. I didn't know that. Go to Sears and get you a car. Go to Sears and have one that's still existing would also be cool. With American-made Craftsman tools, because those USA-made Craftsman tools were so tough back in the day. But I digress. First generation Croatian American driven Yugos all over Europe. I'm your driver. There you go, Rusty Beechwood. And according to the last article I read, they made them all the way up until 2008. So over there, you can probably still find one a lot easier than you can over here. Roger Riggs, that's a terrible idea. Talking about the legend car with the Yugo frame on it. Sounds better than Renault, says Sonny V. So Renault, we'll go with Renault, but just so everybody knows, I do know how to say it properly. I'm not that Southern or big of a redneck or whatever you want to call it. No to the view, to Louisville. Yeah, we'll keep the politics out of it, but just people that want to talk crazy stuff. You got to have one driver that's like super serious. So in that situation, I guess Chase Elliott would fit. So one driver that's super serious and three other drivers that complain all the time. Kyle Petty for the view. There we go. I like it so far. Kyle Petty, Jeff Burton, either Denny Hamlin or Dale Jr., and then somebody who hardly ever says like two words. That would be a good cast for the view. Old home guy says, "You go, Kyle. You go racing." Cole Custer would be the guy that gets bullied by everyone on the booth again for being bad in the Cup Series. Guys, quit picking on him. He's only a Cup Series bust, LOL. So there you go. Moulton having a little bit of fun with Cole Custer's bad season. So hopefully he's turning around here. Jeff Burton talks like he's on The View every second he's on. Says ML William 213. He definitely did during the Ross Chastain thing. He doesn't really bother. He didn't really bother me until that whole situation went down. I just didn't understand why he was so anti-Chastain. But it is what he is, and he did what he did. I never really paid attention to him until then. Speed Channel had a which is to say he was doing a decent job before that. Speed Channel had a Monday night show. Benson, Schaefer, and Michael Waltrip back in the day. Michael Waltrip, there you go. You got to add him to the panel too, just for color. And Rutledge Wood. So there's a good rotation of drivers we could have. We'll figure it out. I growed up around body shops and towing companies. We had an old Yugo. We had cut the roof off to play with in the woods. I think that was the fate of a lot of them. A lot of them were turned into sort of backyard go-kart type deals. Tony Stewart would be a good host for The View. There you go. There could be your more silent. Because as much as Tony Stewart does talk, he's actually kind of quiet, but he'll get going occasionally. So he would probably be the more quiet guy that chimed in when he had a strong opinion. So he would be a good one for the more quiet guy, because you got to have a rotation of panelists. Kenny Wallace for The View. Kenny Wallace would be on there. That would be good too. Yeah, we could definitely get a show going like that. Opel GT would be an interesting car for you. Yeah, for sure. I had basically what I was driving was either an Opel or a Vauxhall. The Chevrolet Cobalt was a version of one of those. I think it was an Opel something. Robin Marks, but it's smoked. It's not going to be that one. I'm not putting that much work into one. I'd rather start from scratch than have to tear a bunch of stuff off. I had a Pinto. Mechanics boarded out and did over 100 miles an hour. Drove great. Sat right on the ground. It was solo. That's pretty cool. Pintos, a lot of people sort of got into them because the engine bay would sort of hold anything. Ty Dillon said on multiple occasions he has the ability to win a Cup championship. Do you think he can do that in any format? I don't know, man. First off, he needs to. I appreciate his confidence, and I don't want to take a dump on anybody's dreams. Ryan Perez asked this question. I need to see him win a race before I can talk about him winning a championship, but I'm glad that he has that confidence in himself. I don't care how good or bad you are as a race car driver. You do need that confidence. So I like his confidence, and I like his swagger saying that. As of right now, talent-wise, though, I just don't see it. So I don't see him winning in any format until he gets a crew chief combination or some better results. The Sears car was the Henry J. So I'm assuming that was a Ford type of car you could buy at Sears, says Greg Staten, or a Mercury Bobcat, their version of the Pinto. There you go, Mercury Bobcat. I never even heard of that car. I've heard of the Pinto, though. Harvick for The View. Harvick would be solid on The View. Harvick and Tony Stewart, and then Jeff Burton, Dale Jr., and like Kyle Petty or Rutledge Wood, Denny Hamlin, somebody that would be a good mix. I saw Henry J do a 130 in a quarter mile at Farmington Drag Strip. There you go. Harvick or Tony for The View. That would be hilarious. Yeah, both of them. Put them both on there. ML William 213 says, I'd like to see Jeff Burton do anything that takes up this entire weekend every week for every second half of the year. There you go. Make sure you specify which half of the year because he could get you on a technicality there, ML. Douglas Serrano, what is with The View stuff? We're talking about which NASCAR drivers we would put on a show like The View, leaving the politics out of it, obviously, because I don't do politics, and I get the some people don't like that show. I don't watch it. I don't like it, but it is a running joke. That show itself is a running joke, in my opinion, because they're so often wrong. So we were thinking, what NASCAR drivers would you put on the NASCAR version of The View? That's what we're talking about, Douglas Serrano. Old home guy, what about the people teams losing charters for not making the minimum year-end points? I agree with that 100%, and that's something I think that should be looked at. You put the car in the Cup Series and make it the exact same as the Xfinity Series, however you want to do that. and maybe you change the different engine packages. So the Xfinity Series would have a different engine package than the Cup Series. But the last 3 teams, just like soccer in the MLS, or not MLS, but in the Premier League, the last 3 or 4 teams are sent down to relegation, and the best 3 teams or 4 teams are brought up, in this case from the Xfinity Series. So I think that would be a good system going forward, and you would still have to buy a charter either way. So it would be the best 4 teams that have bought a charter. That way you can sell more charters, and you also get rid of this idea of teams that just have a charter and they're just out there making laps because they got a charter, trying to drive up the price of their charter for when they want to cash out. Michael Waltrip would be playing the whoopee role for sure. One wise guy, I got to laugh at that one too. Henry J. Kaiser, also a Jeep. I'm assuming Jeep AMC. That was Kaiser, right? Old home guy, sending that one in. Clint Boyer talking about the Sears car, the Henry J. Kaiser. Just in case nobody knew what I was talking about there. Clint Boyer to the view too. Clint Boyer would be good. He'd be good color. That would be a wide open. We've got some good ideas right now. Jay Leno would be a good addition to the view. Yeah, he's got a extensive car collection, so he would have some knowledge on the matter. Jimmy Spencer would be another good one. John Lewis with that one. ML William 213 says, if they let Ty Dillon drive a Cup car in the Truck Series, I think he could finish top 20. I'm not going to go that far with it. He does have some good Truck Series runs. He just is not. He's just one of those guys that hasn't done anything in Cup for whatever reason. He drove terrible cars for a long time. I don't really see that changing going to Spire unless they can get some serious help for their setups and stuff like that, equipment wise. But I'm pretty sure it will come from RCR. So a little bit better situation than Corey LaJoie's been in, but probably about a very similar situation for Ty Dillon with Spire. Chris Busher running a Kenseth throwback this weekend, says Billy Joe, for sure. And in case you missed Brad Keselowski's tweet about that, I will actually rehash that real quick. Billy Joe, he's running the 5th third bank throwback, and here's what Brad Keselowski had to say about it. And this touches on the previous Mark Martin situation. Trying really hard to honor our past while not losing sight of the future. It's nice to be able to do that for Matt Kenseth coming up. 2023 Hall of Fame induction. He may not always get it right. We may not always get it right, but we will have more to come to make up for it when we don't. Making up for it when we don't is clearly a reference to Mark Martin feeling slighted because nobody talked to him in Las Vegas when he was being honored with his favorite race car from Roush, because Castrol is a sponsor for Roush now, and obviously Valvoline was on that car. So I think Valvoline told them not to have don't get caught on camera with Mark Martin because we are your sponsor. It was one of those type of situations, is just my guess. Obviously, I wasn't there. I don't know. That would be my guess as to what happened. But in Mark Martin's defense, somebody from RFK should have called and reached out and said, hey, this is the situation with our sponsor. We have a sponsor conflict. We're not going to be able to talk to you and take pictures with you. And this is why. That probably could have diffused the whole situation. But what actually happened, we don't know. So that tweet right there was exactly what he was talking about. But yes, for sure, the 5th third banks of Matt Kenseth paint scheme is being honored this weekend, and it looks really good. They stayed, even though the numbers slid forward, they stayed as true to the original scheme as you can stay. Aaron Flynn says we had an old Chrysler Cordoba with a fan that we took off an old frig to cool the motor to run through the woods too. So there you go. A lot of cars with overheating issues, probably ending their lives with a blown head gasket at some point, if that was the cooling fan. But yeah, that is definitely a thing that a lot of people did back in the day. You get an old car and you just park it in the backyard and use it as a beater, or wherever you're at, your shop or whatever. Speaking of something, we can have more commercials with Eric Almirola and Cole Custer. Those two are really good as a pair on commercials. Bacon and vodka both have a lot of personality. Yeah, they could get a similar thing that Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer had going on back in the day for their commercials. Tony Stewart had some commercials with other drivers, namely Lewis Hamilton, the old soda cookies commercial. That was a pretty good one. Philip Caravan says he wants Tim Allen for the view. Tim Allen, obviously a car guy as well. Kevin McNamara, Steve Phelps needs to go. Yes, he's got a football mindset, and he's trying to make NASCAR football, and that is sort of my issue with him. I don't necessarily dislike him as a person or anything like that. He's just not. He's not made the sport better since he's got there, in my opinion, and that's just my thoughts on it. He might watch my channel and hate my channel, so everybody's allowed their opinion. It is what it is. Burton is Behar. They are both big squealers, says Camaro 50. Mark Wachowski, Ty Dillon is a good racer. He isn't the best, but he's not the worst. But he is in Cup racing. I agree. I'm not hating on the dude. He just hasn't had the results in the Cup Series, and that's my only thing. And the only reason I was bringing that up is because somebody asked if I think he could ever win a championship. I don't see him being a guy that could ever win a Cup championship right now, unless we see some vast improvement. That being said, if you look at the vast majority of Sterling Marlin's career, there were points in Sterling Marlin's career when you're like, this guy is never going to win a race, much less a championship. Now, he never won a championship, but he definitely competed for one. If he didn't have that broken neck, there was a good chance he was winning that championship, or he would have had a good shot at it. So he could be a guy like Sterling Marlin that he figures it out later in his career and then goes on a tear. You never know. So I'm not counting him out, but as of right now, from what I've seen, I don't think a championship's in his future. Whistling Diesel for the view says Stupid Roofer. Whistling Diesel is another good channel if you like sort of car builds and stuff like that. Sonny V, if you like the environment, don't watch this channel. ML William 213, that wasn't Mark's favorite car. It was his second favorite. He owns his favorite for sure. So let's see. Old home guy, surprised nobody said Logan from Stapleton 42 for the view. There you go. Another one for that one. Sure would like to see Eric Jones have a great season in 2023. He has the talent. They just need to find consistency, says Mark Wachowski. I think so too. I think that's been the biggest issue with Petty GMS this year. Even in the races they finish, sometimes they just have weeks where their setup is so far off that there is no saving it. I don't even know what happened to him this weekend, but he ended up finishing 30th. I didn't even hear about him the entire race, so I don't know if it was mechanical or what went down, but he was not even a factor in this race. Larson is in the best cup right now. I see him winning the championship. Talking about the Owners' Championship. So, yeah, he's probably got a really good chance of that. Great stream. Thanks for hanging out, BB. I appreciate it, One Wise Guy. Anytime. I'll try to do these. We might do these more often next year, but for right now, we're going to keep it at 2. Let's see. Stupid Roofer said Jones will be fine. I think so, too. I think Jones is going to be good, and I think him and Noah can build something over there if they both stay, if Noah doesn't use that as a place that he's just stopping off for a while. So if Noah and Eric Jones stay, that could be a situation where you've got 2 young drivers that have the potential to be really good, and Petty GMS builds something over there. Because like I said, the owner of GMS, Marty, I can't say his last name properly, he said he's going to open up the bank account and start spending money and get them going over there to win championships because he's not getting any younger. Douglas Serrano says, I hope Martinsville won't be a snooze fest this time. I agree with you because I will be there. So hopefully it's puts on a little bit better show. Eric Amarola and Cole Custer should start their own podcast and call it Bacon and Vodka. That'll be interesting. 2 SHR guys starting a podcast. That would be an interesting concept. Eric Amarola would be a good one as far as one of those guys that don't say anything. He could be the guy that doesn't say anything on the NASCAR version of the panel show. We don't necessarily have to call it The View. Say hello to Steve Tyson, a black NASCAR fan forever. What's up, Steve Tyson? Good to have you on here. Old home guy says Mark Martin car was something the guy restored the car and Mark Martin came up with. So that's pretty cool. There, yeah, you're right. There is a video of the guy restoring that car. I'm forgetting whose channel. It might have just been something I saw on an article, but there is a video out there of the guy restoring the car and then Mark Martin going and checking it out. And actually, if you look at it, you can see it's actually back in just like a regular garage now. So it's just kept in like a regular garage, like you would see on the side of somebody's house. And that's the resting place for that car that was at Las Vegas. Kevin McNamara says, Still pissed off about Brandon Brown. Got screwed over by something he had absolutely nothing to do with. Imagine losing sponsors for a winning race while outperforming expectations. Yeah, he's just in a crap situation. He was the wrong guy at the right time for that moment to happen. And he definitely, he's not even necessarily political or anything like that, but he got caught up in a political controversy. And now he's just out of luck. So hopefully somebody picks him up sponsor-wise in the future and understands that story. But it does stink because it's just a guy that wants to race. And, bad luck for him. I'm going to go just a little bit longer here. Then we'll call it a day, maybe 15 or 20 more minutes. John Lewis says, hopefully, BB will see you at the racetrack. As always, good stream tonight. I will see you there. I hope. I'll be, like I said, in case you missed the earlier one, I'll be at Martinsville. I'll be wandering around the track. So if you see me, throw your hand up. I'm going to try to film as much as I can. But I'll be probably mainly at the midway where they got the merchandise haulers and stuff like that, hanging out, seeing what all they got going on over there. Junkyard Digs is a good car channel, says Mark Barnum. So I haven't seen that one, so I have to check that one out. So if you like car channels, check out Junkyard Digs. Now that Kyle Busch is at RCR, how much do you expect Austin Dillon's performance to improve? It should improve quite a bit, but I don't know exactly how much you're actually going to see on the racetrack, because if you look at Austin Dillon's run pretty good this year. There's a lot of people that don't like Austin Dillon, and I get that. You're Eric Almirola fan. You don't like him because he drives a 3. You don't like him because he's a rich kid. I understand there's all kinds of reasons you might not like him, but he's had a pretty good season. He's currently actually in front of Kyle Busch in points right now, if you look at the points. So I think you'll see him improve. I think Kyle Busch is probably a little bit more talented at getting a setup at this point in his career than maybe Tyler Reddick, or at least figuring out how to make adjustments the longer a run goes. But Tyler Reddick will rapidly close that gap. You're trading two talents that are very high talents at different points in their career. So I see about 3 or 4 good years out of Kyle Busch. And then, of course, Tyler Reddick's got his whole career in front of him. So RCR lost out on years, but they didn't lose out on talent right now. So he'll probably be elevated just a little bit. Mark Wachowski with the LGB. What are your plans for streaming and videos after the season? I will still, obviously I won't be able to preview a race, but I will still do the Tuesday stream will stay, and we'll sort of play it by ear, but I'll definitely be dropping videos, Camaro 50. I'll drop videos 3 or 4 a week like I normally do throughout the season. Those are my plans. And there'll be different videos. Most of them will be news, but some of them you'll have to throw some off-season stuff in there as well. Don't you dare, Mark. I don't know. Molten Rage saying don't you dare, Mark. I don't know what's going on there. Let's see. Aaron Flynn. We've done stuff like that with our best bud. He is an artist. He is artistic. See him every week. Says Aaron Flynn. Xfinity prediction: Cole Custer will win a race or two. What's your favorite cold snack? Mine is beer, says Old Home Guy. Favorite cold snack? Probably ice cream sandwich. Pretty solid on that one. Ice cream sandwich, maybe bonbons. I don't even know if they make bonbons anymore. Heck yeah, see you at Martinsville. We'll definitely say, hey, what's going on, Bob Puckett? I hope to see you there, man. I'm sure I will. I will be down at the haulers looking at the stuff and filming all the good things. And if anybody wants to get on camera, I do plan on getting some opinions on stuff. So we'll or just some commentary on some stuff. So we'll see. What's going on there, and if you see me, you might get on the episode. Bring back Victory Lane. NASCAR needs to take some responsibility, but obviously never will. Yeah, I agree with that. Like the interview at the start-finish line is stupid. I don't like it. It's never been a good idea. Fans sometimes lose their mind. We talk about the 45 lost his mind and he had a bad day, but fans lose their mind too. And we've seen things get thrown at drivers. And interviewing a driver on the start-finish line is not a good idea. because all it takes is one fan to go crazy and do something dumb. So bring back Victory Lane. I agree with you there. Another good channel is Slap Shoes. Says ML William 213. Slap Shoes is an amazing channel. I've never seen the dude do a bad video. So check out Slap Shoes. My personal favorite is the history of spam, but he does mostly NASCAR content. But he did the history of spam as a shout out to Lake Speed. I would reckon. I wish Dylan's in-car camera Sunday. I was watching Dylan's in-car camera Sunday. He ran good, but he's not aggressive enough. On a video today, someone said he needs to channel his inner Dale Sr., says Robin Marks. I would agree with that. He could stand to be just a touch more aggressive. And I know there's a lot of people talking about, well, he's too aggressive on the last lap because he's wrecked such and such and such and such. Fair point there, but if he was aggressive throughout the race, you know, he could probably get some better positions, some better finishing positions than he's had. I'm not sure what Kyle has shared, what he knows from JGR yet. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that's going to be a big part of it too. Jet MDK is another great NASCAR YouTuber. Watch you guys all. Yeah, he's really good as well, and he does. Jet MDK does a bunch of news as well, so check him out. He's on it all the time. Let's see, Mark Barnum, post-race streaming is stupid. Talking about at the start-finish line? I don't know. Is TV in a hurry to get off air nowadays? Oh, okay, yeah. So Douglas Serrano, yeah, that's a good point. Like, they can't wait the extra 5 minutes to get to Victory Lane. Yeah, so that's another fair point. Stapleton 42 and Bologna Burger podcast together would be cool. I'd be down for it. Yeah, I'll do a podcast with just about anybody. No problem with that. And Stapleton 42 would be cool to do a podcast with for sure, or just an interview. It is, whatever. You know what it would. You know what? If I was Stewart Haas Racing, I would put Cole Custer back to the Xfinity Series full time in the second Stewart Haas Xfinity entry and see if he wins the championship. Then bring him back to Cup in the 41, again in the 42. That would be a similar career path to Eric Almirola, so that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And obviously, other drivers have done it too. Just saying Eric Almirola because he's a Stewart Haas man. Enzo says, "Crack a cold one on the stream." that would be cool. I can do that now. There you go. There's your cracking a cold one. That's a Diet Dr. Pepper, so not as cold as it could be. What are the SRX's plans next year? Says Home Guy. I don't know. As far as I know, they're going to run the same schedule. That's what Mr. Hawk has said, or the same TV schedule. The tracks will probably be a little bit different, but he expects them to be back. So apparently they're going to re-sign with CBS. Peacock streaming the post-race show. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, I guess that is sort of lame. They should just put it on TV. It's not like there's a ton of other stuff, but sort of Peacock's problem is they've run out of channels. So I guess they don't want to put it on USA, and they no longer have a sports channel because they canceled it. So I guess they're just trying to get to football would be my guess. Austin Dillon has been in some spectacular wrecks over the years. Not that he's not aggressive, but he might be a little bit gun shy, says Mark Wachowski. Yeah, he's had some humdingers for sure. Probably the most memorable one was at Talladega or Daytona, where he luckily had the common sense to pull his feet up because after you saw that wreck, you saw where the bottom of the floor pan got ripped up and probably would have got his feet and legs in that one. Where do you get all of your NASCAR memorabilia from? eBay, from trailers. Kevin McNamara, yes. And also the NASCAR online store, also the team shops. Just sort of whatever I see that day. But most of the diecasts come from NASCAR.com or Circle B. That's where a lot of the diecasts come from. The T-shirts and stuff, racetrack, hats, racetrack normally, or the team shop when you visit the shops or whatever like that. Finish line interview was a with everything going on right now thing. It's time to bring back Victory Lane. I agree. Yeah, for sure. It's time to move past that. It was good for that era, and now it's time to move on past that era. as even the leader of the free world has said, that's over with. Has anyone seen the Dale Jr. download video of front stretch or victory lane interviews yet? I have not seen that video, but Dale Jr. actually has a backup YouTube channel, and you can watch his full in-car camera of his Atlanta win on that one. He's had a secret YouTube channel for many years now. Enzo says cheers anyway. So cheers to you, Enzo. Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar Cherry is pretty good too. Yeah, they didn't have that. That's normally what I look for, but very rarely do they have it at the grocery stores I frequent. Sonny V. So, yep, I agree. That's one of my favorites as well. Aaron Flynn, appreciate the times you have started the chats. It makes it easier to follow. Sunday, I was walking around Walmart to tune. Right on, man. I do the best I can. And as always, feedback is welcome. So if you've got an idea for future live streams and what times they should start, let me know. Kevin McNamara, I see you there, brother. Sonny V says, best estimate of how many racing T-shirts you have? No clue. Because, man. So here's why I say no clue, because sometimes you get T-shirts doing late model stuff. Somebody will be promoting something. So well over 100 at least, I would say. Let's see. Stupid Roofer, just reach out to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast, E-Step, Iceberg, Danny B, BFM. Would surely have you on. Says Stupid Roofer. Yeah, those guys are cool. I have talked to them. They've had me on before. So, whenever they want to do something, I am open to it going forward in the future. And I might see one or two of them there this weekend, hopefully, and talk with them a little bit because I did the last time I went to Martinsville. I didn't know any of them other than watching their channels, which are awesome. I think you're seeing the best of Austin Dillon this year. Everyone can't be Jeff Gordon. Dillon, Brandon Jones, Riley Herbst, those guys have gotten better, but talent is not what kept their jobs. I agree with you 100% there, ML Williams 213. Austin Dillon's the first one to tell you he wouldn't be anywhere without his grandpa. That's actually kind of what made me an Austin Dillon fan. I'm always going to pull for RCR guys, but what really made me an Austin Dillon fan was when he said that, because he absolutely owned it. He said, look, my granddad is the reason I'm where I'm at, and that's just a fact. But I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to try to win championships. And at every level except Cup, he has done just that. He's won championships, and he has gotten better at Cup. So that's why I'm like, and I understand why people might not like him and stuff like that. But the fact that he addressed his situation and did it in just like a common sense way, like we'll never understand what it's like to have, most of us will never understand what it's like to live that life. But the fact that he addressed it head on and said, yeah, I understand. Some people don't like me because of that. But I acknowledge that I wouldn't be here without my granddad. I was like, well, he was just being straight up. And that's all you can ask from anybody, is to be a straight up human being. So that's why I was like, Austin Dillon, I kind of like that guy. But to some of you guys' points, he has gotten a little conservative recently, but you've also seen him improve his finishes. So he needs to sort of find that fine line between realizing he has a winning car and going for wins, and then realizing he doesn't have a winning car and then just trying to get the best finish you can get. Because this year, I would agree with what a lot of you have said, that he has had some cars that are capable of winning, and he's just taken sort of the top 5 or top 10 finish in certain situations. Obviously, he has a win, so he did get a win this year. Riley Herbst has been in the in 2 equipment in 3 years. Riley Herbst has been in 2 equipment in 3 years. Joe Gibbs Racing failed. Stuart Haas Racing failed. He is always first round exit, which is bad for those 2 organization standards, and he's still in the 98. Why won't Tony get rid of him? He won't get rid of him because he's bringing a lot of money to the table. Moulton. Mark Barnum says Herbst is buying his seat. Yep, for sure. But to be fair to Herbst, he has run well enough to make the playoffs. So he's not the worst driver you can have in there. He's not the best driver. I mean, that's all you can say. Stupid Roofer says Austin Dillon, in my opinion, is holding back. Fair point. Just talked about that one. Austin Dillon is a truck and Xfinity champion. That's way more than most drivers, says Enzo. I agree with you. Dude has talent. I think so too. I think he's as far as he's not like Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick talent, but he is definitely probably that next tier below that, where you're sort of in the let's see, Eric Almirola, guys like that, guys that'll get you wins here and there, but normally are just super consistent, guys like that. So I would put him in that tier. Austin Dillon actually really respected Kyle Busch. Yeah, so that's another good point. He's actually helped out RCR more than he's hurt him, because he's the one that aggressively wanted to court Kyle Busch. Good point there, Ryan Perez. And let me read the whole comment since I just read it in my mind and didn't say it out loud. Austin Dillon actually really respected Kyle Busch for offering him a truck ride at the same time that others were saying he only gets where he is because of his grandpa. So there you go. I agree with that. The very first race car was when the second race car was built, says Mark Wachowski. No doubt about it. Watched the YouTube video of Herbst's taller recovery from the crash. Luckily, it was saved off the guardrail. Very easily could have rolled over, says old home guy. Yeah, that was a bad situation that ended better than it could have, for sure. Sonny V says, yeah, I didn't care much for Austin Dillon, but now I do like him with him telling it like it is, plus wanting to get KB from the team. Guess he'll be running RCR someday, and we'll probably be good at it. That's my hopes. The only thing I can really ding Austin Dillon on this year is the reality show. That thing is just not good. I don't care that he does a reality show. I just wish he made a reality show that was better than that one. That's the only thing I'll really ding him on this year. Just remember, just remember Riley Herbst is the same team that won 9 races in 2020 Xfinity, and the same team. The only difference is the driver. Where's the excuses at the same team? I don't think anybody's making excuses for him. I think everybody knows the deal. Riley Herbst brings money, and he's good enough to get you what he gets you. So in my opinion on that one is Stuart Haas took the money to make sure those people still had jobs that do that Xfinity deal, instead of shutting the Xfinity Series deal down for a season before Haley Deegan or whoever else gets there. Dillon is a better driver than a reality TV guy, says Mark Barnum. So there you go. That's what I was just talking about. That's the only knock I can really put on him this year. The reality show is just too Chrisley knows best and not real reality. Douglas Serrano, what happened to Herbst Taller? They still haven't really said, other than it had an accident. It ran off the road and was leaning against the guardrail. They sent in another truck to get it. The other truck was able to hook up to it and pull it out, and it didn't go over the guardrail. So luckily, everything was saved. Austin Dillon is probably taking over for RC one day, and he is a way better driver than RC was. He has promise as an owner as well, says Enzo. I agree with that 100%. Like always, great show, great chat room. We learn and laugh, says Mark Wachowski. For sure, mostly laugh. If you learn anything, it's all by mistake. One wise guy said, who do you got at Martinsville? I'm thinking Hamlin or Truex. You know what? I haven't really given it much thought. The fact that William Byron is bringing the same setup sort of makes me lean toward they really like what they've got. So I'd have to include him in the mix. And Hendrick's probably going to put that setup on everybody's car. So Chase Elliott gets around that joint really good. So I'd include him in the mix as well. Kyle Larson, he ran better there, but he still hasn't quite figured out Martinsville. Believe it or not, Cole Custer was running really good there. If Cole Custer can qualify and not have a pit situation, Cole Custer or a guy like him, let's say Chase Briscoe with Cole Custer's setup, you could see one of those guys winning. Although once again, that's not a great track for either one of those guys normally. But we did see Cole Custer run well there. Austin Dillon will probably get a top 10. He had a really good car there. I expect Tyler Reddick to run good there too, because he was also testing there. I don't know. Can I name 12 more drivers? And so far, they've all been Chevrolets. Denny Hamlin for sure. Kyle Busch for sure. So probably Byron, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex would be, off the top of my head, the four picks I would go with there. ML Williams 213 says, I think people don't like Austin Dillon because he calls himself Ace, and even came up with a little emblem for it. That right there. Plus for the number 3. So his mom or Grandma is who nicknamed him Ace, and that's where the Ace comes from. But yeah, for sure, without having that knowledge and just a guy that walks around calling himself Ace and has his own Ace logo, I understand that opinion. Great win for Larson. If not for one fluke hit and crappy butt parts, he would be in the championship. I feel for Ross. I feel Ross is in a good shape. But with Elliott's poor results, is he safe at plus 11? Your picks. So as long as Chase Elliott gets the setup that William Byron had, which Hendrick basically said, at least Race Hub said, Hendrick said they're both getting for the Martinsville race. Chase Elliott gets around Martinsville pretty good. So I would put Chase Elliott in there. I'm with you on Ross Chastain. I feel strong about him. I think he's got enough points to play with that he can have a semi-mediocre day and still get in there. Obviously, Joey Logano is in there. Then you sort of get down to your nitty-gritty. William Byron, the way he dominated that race earlier this year, I have him in there, but I also have, I don't know, it's really hard to bet against Denny Hamlin at this track. Denny Hamlin is pretty much, as far as modern-day statistics and drivers that have history here, it's hard to bet against Denny Hamlin. So I would say flip a coin between Denny Hamlin and William Byron. Whoever is going to have the better race there, but that would be my 4. So I know I'm being non-committal, but I'll just go with proven history. It's hard to win. It's hard to sweep a race. It's hard to sweep a racetrack. So I'll go with Denny Hamlin in this situation and put him in over William Byron. So I think that'll be your final 4, just given Denny Hamlin's past record here at Martinsville. So that would be my final 4 picks right there. Kevin McNamara says the charter system is slowly killing NASCAR. The luster of the old NASCAR was that anyone with speed and a fast car could come up and compete. Also, I need to make the purses public again. I agree with that 100%. I don't know that it's necessarily killing NASCAR, but they do definitely need to allow more spots for open drivers, backyard builds. They basically killed that with the bolt-on car. But they also need to make the public purses again. That was one of the coolest things back in the day, was reading how much money a guy made. Let's see, scroll down here. I feel bad for Truex this year, says Serrano. Yeah, he's had some terrible luck, just awful luck. I agree with you. If he has as much good luck next year as he had bad luck this year, go ahead and pencil him in as a champion. Sonny V says, yeah, I've never seen the Real Husbands of NASCAR. I have no plans to. You didn't miss much. It wasn't for me. That's all I'll say. Enzo says Cole Buster. Rufus says my finger is throbbing. Got to head out, BB. I appreciate it, Roofer. Take them easy. I appreciate your help. Mark Barnum says sorry about your 49ers getting beat by the Chiefs, man. LOL. I fully expected us to lose that game. I didn't think we'd quite lose like that. But the same, and nothing against Jimmy G, but he's a nice backup quarterback. But the same Jimmy G came out that I expected to come out. So it is what it is. Not that his offensive line gave him a lot of help, but we could have done a little bit better than that. But that being said, Kansas City Chiefs are legit. I wasn't expecting to beat them. Mark Wachowski, Martinsville is tough on equipment and drivers. I agree. So there's definitely going to be one of those drivers I picked is probably going to have a bad day and probably barely skate into the playoffs. Whoever wins the poll at Martinsville is who's going to be who wins because there will be no passing, says ML Williams 213. Hopefully that's not the case. Cole's uniform is getting a little bit tighter as well. LOL, says John Lewis. Molten Rage did not care for that comment, John. Jamie Thornton says to ML William, true, if it's big, if there are no issues on pit road, look at what happened to Byron on pit road. So that's fair too. If there is no passing, the pit stops are going to be huge. So definitely the pit stops could be the story of this race if it happens like it did last fall. JRM is going to have a joint venture with RCR, ECR, KBM, and HMS, says Aaron Flynn. I could definitely see that, and that could be like the third RCR car, right? Because RCR said they want to expand. They could go in with Junior, and that would not be an issue because they have open and available spots. So that would work. Jamie Thornton says, remember the earlier race was a night race. This is a day race. It's going to be much warmer. That is very good points. Very good point indeed. So Yeah, hopefully the weather is better too, and hopefully there's rubber lays down on the track. So there's a lot of different scenarios, but Hendrick said they're going with the same setup, so it's going to be it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Emma Williams 213 says this could be the week Ross pays the price. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this week. There's no doubt about that. I don't know that Denny Hamlin is going to risk doing that in this race, but some other drivers that are already out of the playoffs might. So I don't see it coming from Denny Hamlin, but maybe another driver. And if it's one of those wrecks that looks like it's super intentional, I expect a penalty. So NASCAR needs to stay consistent on what they do. Wasn't the charter system was to stop, start, and park, says Camaro 50, 100%. That is the big part of the charter system. Yes, that is why they instituted it, at least a large part of it. Kevin McNamara says, you grew up in San Fran. How are you a 49ers fan? Well, to answer your question, Kevin McNamara, I went to a Super Bowl party when I was a kid. I had no idea what football was. There were two teams on the football field. One was the Bengals and one was the 49ers. The 49ers had the cooler helmets. And so I picked the 49ers to win. But to be 100% honest with you, I was more concerned with who was going to win the Bud Bowl that year, because that's back when they had the Bud Bowl. And I picked the team and I stuck with them. So that is the story of the 49ers. North Carolina at that time did not have a team. We would get a team a few years later when the Carolina Panthers came to town. But no one. Oh gosh, I'm older now. So I used to say no one under 20. No one under 30 really pulls for the. No one over 30 really pulls for the Carolina Panthers in North Carolina, for the most part. Or at least fully. They might pull for them and then another thing. Which 4 races would you add to the 40 race calendar next year? Says Enzo. Probably Iowa, IRP, North Wilkesboro, CS3, and put Road America back on there and take away one of the other road courses. And when you take away one of those other road courses, I would add something like Eldora and get two Bristol races on pavement. So there you go. Those are my picks. Hopefully that all worked out mathematically. One wise guy says, go Seahawks. They can go somewhere for sure, wise guy. I'm just playing. No, the Seahawks are good. I actually like what they got going on right now. Geno Smith, for sure. I'm glad he's having a career resurrection because he's been a fairly decent quarterback. He's just never had a team be fully behind him. I mean, it's hard to be a quarterback for the Jets, and I feel like he showed some flashes with the Jets. So hopefully he gets a run with the Seahawks, and they get something good going on over there. Rusty Beechwood, G-Men 6-1, go Big Blue. Yeah, who had that at the beginning of the season? And Kevin McNamara, also a G-Man fan. Yeah, if you had Daniel Jones and the Giants being 6-1, good on you, because not many people did. NASCAR needs to replace the charter system with what we have in Xfinity and trucks, which is OP on how you should practice and qualifying. Who has the fastest speed or points makes the show. Yeah, I mean, that's how they did it back in the day. And that's really nothing should have changed about that, just because NASCAR got ill about starting parks. Mark Wachowski goes, Cole Custer could be a king in Xfinity. I agree with that. If someone does their payback to Ross this weekend, they will be hated worse than Bubbles. That's probably accurate, especially if it's a non-playoff driver. That could definitely get sticky. The only situation I could see Denny Hamlin doing it is if Denny Hamlin needs one more point to transfer. And that's the guy that happens to be in front of him. And in that situation, it would just be whoever's in front of Denny Hamlin. So it is what it is. Ryan Perez, I think when Maury G gets too old, there is a real possibility he sells the GMF side of Petty GMS to Dale Jr. That's a good point, Ryan Perez. That could definitely happen. That would be really cool. If Earnhardt owned Petty, the Petty name or whatever, when that happens, that side of the Petty Racing legacy. That would be really cool. Ross will be more aggressive next year. Mark my words, says Douglas Serrano. Probably. But he'll probably be smarter about it too. With age comes wisdom. I would love to go to 40 races and shorten the length of the races outside of Daytona 500, Coke 600. I would like to see 300-mile races. Why are we not going to Homestead twice instead of Texas? Yeah, that's a fair statement. They have some deal worked out with Texas. So I don't know. I do think Texas needs a race. I just wish their racetrack was better than what they have now. And if they shorten the length of the races, get rid of stages and just have heat races for qualifying, that would also be really cool, because then you could still hit your 500 laps or whatever, but you would have 3 races, 2 of them being heat races, and it would just be way cooler. And run the heat races the day before if you really wanted to, after the Xfinity race or whatever. That way they got times to put them back together or whatever, because I know a lot of people are like, well, what if we tear it up in a heat race? Well, you shouldn't have tore it up in a heat race would be my original answer to that. But if that's really going to be something you stick to, then just run the heat races the day before, because that'll get way more people to come out and watch the Xfinity races. Good for everybody involved. Enzo, 49ers beats being a Panthers fan, I guess. It does right now. There have been times when it hasn't. All of the 2000s basically was better to be a Panthers fan. My Bucks suck, BB. I bet the GOAT wished he stayed retired, says Camaro 50. Oh, how much different his life would have been. I don't think he wishes he stayed retired, though. I think he's just having his team's having a bad year. NASCAR, way too late tonight. I wish NASCAR and Tony Stewart would bury the hatchet. I could go on a rant about it, but not tonight. It's just too good for the sport to have them going head-to-head. It's just not good for the sport to have them going head-to-head with each other, says TJ Moorshed. I agree. Hopefully they get it figured out. The Broncos are having buyer's remorse, says Mark Barnum. Yeah, Russell, I don't know if it's Russell or if it's the system he's in, but they have not looked good, or he has not looked good. We need owner's points in Cup. It's a great system in Trucks and Xfinity. Washes out non-competitive bad cars with cars that will at least be decent in the race. That would help Cup a lot. For sure, could have easily added a clause to stop the starting parks. Kevin McNamara, you're right about this, and here's the clause I would have added. Let me read the rest of your statement before I finish that. Phelps wanted the system to be more like football, exactly, just like everything else. My 2-year-old knows racing better than that clown. I agree with you. He's trying to make NASCAR so much like football that it's become a pain in the butt. But here's the clause you could have easily put in for the starting park guys. If you don't run 75% of the race, you only get 50% of the money. That would have stopped the starting parks like that, because they were just doing it for a financial gain. Once you take the motivation for that financial gain away, you get rid of the starting parks. Rusty Beechwood says, bring back the Rock, more shootouts, 300s, 350s too. They probably wouldn't entertain less laps due to money. Keep the long ones especially. Jamie Thornton says, oh yeah, heat races will be awesome, man. I'm with you on that one. I think heat races, because then you keep the distance. You can still call it 500, but you're really only running 300. You need to talk with Phelps. Heat races and 300 miles will be awesome. That's genius. I hope so. Like, I doubt I'll ever get to speak to the man, but I hope somebody tells him that in the future, because it accomplishes 2 things they want to accomplish. They want the races to be shorter, and if you get 2 heat races in there, you still get 500 laps. So it's the best of both worlds. You still get to put 500 on the brochures where you're selling tickets and stuff, and you still get to have a shorter race. So I think it's win-win for everybody involved. And you get 3 races instead of 1. Kevin McNamara, I personally agree with Tony. If NASCAR keeps going the way they are, I may have to start watching more NHRA races. Could be. Hopefully NASCAR rights the ship at some point. I don't want to challenge him to make it any worse. This could be Denny's last chance to get a championship. He needs to focus on winning. That's the best payback. Ask Kyle Larson. I think so too, and hopefully he will. Mike Nolan era. Sheet Metal 02 says, yeah, that was it was pretty bad. At least he wore a really cool suit, because that's all people ever talked about with the 49ers. Hey, their head coach wears a suit while they suck. Aaron Flynn, damn, I left out of RPM, says Aaron Flynn. Heat races in a few of the shootouts. would be awesome. Thought that was the best thing about the Coliseum shootout. Me too, man. Like they've got the model for it right there. It works so good for that. Go to some legit shoe tracks around the country. They used to go to all over. Yeah, it would be awesome, man. Patriots fan not looking good again this year. Music to everyone's ears, says TJ Moorshed. Yeah, but you've had some good years, so you can stick it through this one for sure. Enzo says top 4 picks for next year. Oh, top 4 for next year? That's easy. I'll go Ross Chastain. I'll go Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch. Who are we going to slide in there? Joey Logano. So there you go. Those are my picks for the top 4 next year. I think I got 4 in there. How would you like to do owners points and cup, just like Xfinity? No, I do owners points. Just you run owners points full season, and the top 30 are locked in. Everybody else races to get into the show. So 10 spots are open if somebody wants to build a car in their backyard. That's how I would do it, Moulton. Me personally. ML Williams 213. If they want to fix NASCAR, get the cars off the ground. I agree with you. Take for the short tracks at least. They can leave their package on there for the 1.5s like they got now. But for the short tracks, take that underwing, that entire underwing aero thing out. They don't need it. It's not helping anything on a short track. Jamie Thornton says, Mark, I don't know. I think Denny has a good chance in the next 2 years because he's going to get the best JGR equipment now, thanks to Kyle Busch leaving. That's a fair point. I hadn't considered. So yeah, I could definitely see that happening. World's smallest violin for TJ LMAO says Kevin McNamara. And he says he knows Kevin, talking about the Patriots having a down year. I think JGR race cars are pretty equal. It's the setup, crew chief, and driver that make the difference. Maybe, but even Kyle Busch said the best crew chief in the series at Joe Gibbs is on that 20 car, and you don't see the 20 car necessarily running a whole lot better than it normally runs. He's gotten some wins and stuff like that, but that 20 car has still been inconsistent, which lets me know that 20 car suffered for a very long time. I don't know. I just felt like I don't think any of the cars are different, but I think certain cars have more funding than others. And when you have more funding, you can do more R&D on little small stuff that makes a big difference. That's always what I've thought's been the difference between the JGR cars. And that's basically the difference between the RCR cars and the Hendrick cars. The Hendrick cars have more funding, and they've been able to spend more money on these little small things that they get you a small gain, but it ends up being a big gain on the racetrack. And this year, you've seen that be chopped in half because it's an all-new car. So it is what it is. No Kyle Larson for your top 4 next year. Oh, no, I got Larson in there. See, that's what it's hard to do when this is live. You can't think of everything. So I'm still in like this playoff mode. Definitely put Kyle Larson in there. Pull out Kyle Busch. Put Kyle Larson over Kyle Busch. 45 car enters the race. There's only 40 spots in the Daytona 500. If you're not in the top 32 in speed, it goes to what positions your team finished last year. If you weren't the top 36 in points, or you go home. So that is Moulton's solution for it. Douglas Serrano says, I hope this new car gets redesigned in the offseason. They've got some redesign on it going already. So hopefully it is more competitive on tracks that aren't 1.5s next year. I agree with you. Aaron Flynn says the 7 and the 77 probably going to Toyota. I don't think so. I don't see that happening. I don't know where that rumor got started. I just don't see it happening, especially with Ty Dillon being in the car. Because I think the whole reason Ty Dillon's over there is because RCR is going to give him some support. That's just the way I think that deal went down. They probably got Ty Dillon in that car at a discount to get some support from RCR. That's how I've always thought that deal went down. Can we start a petition to have Bologna Burger be NASCAR's president? Says Kevin McNamara. I appreciate the super chat, man. That's awesome. I don't know if I would want that job, but I would definitely take it and try to do my best with it. I've been watching 90s races. And immediately after that was Mark Wachowski said no, so he's voting no to me being NASCAR president. He said he still wants to like me as a person. I'm just joking. I'm putting words into his mouth. ML Williams says I've been watching since the 90s. Races. Those cars are better at every track. The new car is good at 1.5s, but still not close to the Gen 4. I agree with you. The closest thing, Jimmy Thornton says, the closest thing we have to great old school Earnhardt, Rusty Wallace type rivalry is Ross Denny. Do you have any thoughts on who might be the next great NASCAR rivalry? I've enjoyed the 1 and the 11. I think the 9 and the 5 is going to be up there too. It's happening behind closed doors, but I think at some point there's a documentary that's going to be made on it, and you'll see that even though they're teammates, they're not they're having moments where they're not as friendly as they could be. And I see at some point that's going to boil over. That's going to be more like a F1 rivalry because they're both on the same team. But I agree with you, the 1 and the 11. I also think that the 18 and the 42, which will be Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs, that's got a chance to be a really good one. So yeah, those would be my picks there. Gragson is a tough SOB for even attempting to climb the fence while battling nausea, says TJ Moorshed. I agree with you. My top 4 next year is going to be Larson, Chastain, Elliott, and Hamlin. My sleeper pick is Reddick. Those are good, solid picks. And like I said, I hate to leave anybody out of there. But I would have to put Chase Elliott in there too. I mean, you can never count him out. So it's just off the top of my head. It's hard to go by. But yeah, you definitely have to have Kyle Larson in there. Denny Hamlin, you kind of always have to have him in there. Joey Logano, I feel like you kind of got to always have him in there. And then you got to put whoever else. And that makes it hard. So Chastain, Elliott, Reddick, all those are good picks. Mark Barnum says, BB, do you watch any sport mod races? Check out Taylor Lowell Racing. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen any of those. Great call with the 5 and the 9. Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty good rivalry. I appreciate it, Jamie. Kevin McNamara, first race was in 97, was a huge Terry Labonte fan. Terry Labonte was awesome. Then became a Kyle Busch fan when he retired because he drove the 5. There you go. You've had two vastly different personalities, but 2 really great race car drivers. Both of them got the job done. Mark Barnum says Kuhl. Not Lowell, it's Kuhl. So Kuhl. Hopefully I said that right. I don't see Reddick going anywhere next year, says John Lewis. Those 2311 cars are fast. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Do you think rides for Trackhouse 91 for the Daytona 500? Oh, that's going to be can't think of his name off the top of my Elio. It's going to be Elio Castroneves, and I finally said his first name right on the first try. I think that's going to be him in the 91 for the Daytona 500, and I think Dan Hawk is going to be a man of his word and live up to that deal. Ryan Perez says the 9 and the 5 will be like the 24 and the 48 when those 2 were competitive. Yep, that's a good comparison. The 8 versus Toyota will be that's going to be good. That's going to be a really good one. The 8 versus Joe Gibbs, and then the 8 car versus Toyota, period, which is going to make RCR versus Gibbs, Chevy versus Toyota. You got so many storylines with that. That's going to be good stuff for sure. Camaro 50, good point. Douglas Serrano says Reddick to 2311, deal done 1 year early. Yep, that's also going to be a storyline, and I'm also curious if he ran as good as he's run recently, does he still make that decision to go over to 2311? I think that's an interesting conversation to have with him maybe when he retires and looking back on it. Let's say a race, let's say Daytona 400, 42 cars enter the race. 2 cars will go home. It will be based on the point standings. Now I'll go to top 30 locked in. The race on OP, owner's points, 31 through 36, must qualify on speed. Daytona 500 is the only one I wouldn't touch. That's because they've already got the duels. So that one I would just leave like it is. The other ones could work like that, though. Oddly enough, both 2-time champs, says Kevin McNamara, for sure. I didn't even think about that. But, yeah, they have parallels other than their personality, I guess. Kyle Larson is the very best Cup driver. I just can't think of anyone better, close, but not better. I agree with you, Mark. I think he's the best. He's the best driver I've seen in a long time, to be totally honest with you. And just the fact that he can get it done and other stuff too is just really cool. So yeah, I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. I had to pull somebody out and put Kyle Larson in once I realized my mistake, and I can't believe I made that mistake. But that's what happens when you do it live on the fly. Kane Corliss says, "Hey everyone, what's going on, Kane? Good to have you on here, buddy." Mark Barnum, Alio is in. So there you go, confirmed. He is going to be in the 500, and we're pretty sure it's going to be the Trackhouse 91. Do you think Dale feels about Kyle taking the 8? Says he doesn't care, but have a feeling he does. He's real funny about numbers. He put this really long thing on Reddit about how nobody should run the 3 because he wants to see the 3 be only when he sees the 3, he wants to know that it's only his dad running that number. He wants it restylized or something like that. And as much as I respect him, and he's been great for the sport, and nobody can say anything against him, really, I disagree with that point, because I think if you take that stylized 3 and you stop running it, people will eventually forget, and it just won't get talked about as much. That's why I like Richard Petty running the 43, even though he's not driving it anymore. And Richard Petty came to this same conclusion when they said either you run the 43 or we take it away from you, back in the day when he was running the 44 with Bobby Hamilton. So he brought the 43 back. And I think that's been overall a good thing, because he came to the conclusion that it's better to have it on the track and on the car and still have the memory and the nostalgia of it, as opposed to never seeing it again just because you don't want to see it, because there should never be a retired stylistic number in NASCAR. Because think about when the Wood brothers eventually have to sell out, if it ever happens or comes like that, how sad would it be to never see that gold 21 on a Wood brothers car again? That would just stink. So from that perspective, I think it's better to run the number and always run the number. That way those guys always get remembered history wise. So that is the reason I actually would disagree with Junior on his take for why the 3 car number should be retired or whatever. But that's just my take on it. Everybody has their own take on the 3 number, and it's super controversial. But I personally don't mind Austin Dillon or anybody else running it, because it keeps that number alive. And I think that's overall a good thing, because, when my generation and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s generation are long and gone, like that 3 will still be there, and people will still remember the legend of Dale Earnhardt and how good he was in a race car. Jimmy Thornton says, Denny said he would field a 3rd car for races Kurt Busch wants to run. He mentioned the street race, Darlington, and Watkins Glen. What races would you like to see him run? And would Denny get the 97 for him to run? First off, he definitely needs to get the 97 for him to run. That would be cool. Definitely he wants to run Chicago. And Kurt Busch would want to run Las Vegas, I would imagine. And then probably Charlotte, some races like that. And then he's always been really good at Bristol, so I imagine Bristol. So I would see some combination of them. Darlington as well. I think you're right about that. So I think Kurt Busch, if he comes back and is able to come back, I think those would be the races he runs, and hopefully he does and is able to. And that 97 would be awesome. That would just be cool stuff to have that happen. And good on Denny Hamlin for leaving that door open and saying we're not. I mean, because he easily could have just bailed on him. So I feel like that's a good deal. Denny catches a lot of slack, but Denny also does cool stuff too. So it kind of balances out, but. He does still get more boos than cheers for whatever reason. Enzo says, who's going to suck next year like Truex did this year? I'm going to say, and it's completely going to be stirring the pot, but I'm going to say that Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers don't have a good year next year if they don't conform and do what NASCAR tells them. And for obvious reasons, right? They're just going to get teched harder than everybody else. Who else might have a bad year? Austin Dillon might have a bad year because he's losing his crew chief. That's one thing that's not being talked about. We could see Austin Dillon have a bad year. Michael McDowell might have a bad year because he's losing his crew chief. And let's see, somebody who's having a really good year this year it's always one person you never expect to have a bad year. And they have a bad year, sort of like Truex this year. So let's see, who's having a good year that'll just randomly have a bad year. Either Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano. Those guys have not had a bad year in like a really long time. So one of those guys is due for just like a run of really bad luck. It won't even be anything they're doing. It'll be somebody like that. They'll have a run of bad luck and they'll just have a bad year. I also think RFK will have a good year next year. Ryan Perez says, I disagree with Dale Jr. because I never got to see Dale senior race, so it is cool to see in the RCR number 3 win at Daytona this summer for the first time. See, and thank you, Ryan Perez, for saying that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Dale Jr. is thinking about this from his perspective, which is fair, and that's the only perspective you can really think of. But think of all the people, like, it's been, like, what, 30 years now? Like, think of all the people that never got to see him run a race. They never got to see that car on the racetrack. This is good for a lot of people that grew up with a legend like that. Just like you can listen to, like, Bob Marley's music on the radio now, even though Bob Marley's not with us. Elvis Presley, name a classic artist, that you can listen to their music. You can still, in a similar way, you can still see that number, and you can still learn that history. Be like, this is the guy that drove that number. This is why that number is important. Even though this guy's driving it now, and he's, in Austin Dillon's case, I mean, who would be? But Austin Dillon's nowhere near Dale Sr., right? But Dale Jr. was also nowhere near Dale Sr. You're like, who's ever going to be near Dale Sr., right? That's going to drive that 3. Any NASCAR drivers running the 24 hours of Daytona? AJ, I would assume some of them are. AJ Allmendinger is probably a fair guess. Mark Wachowski asking that. Kyle Busch, he's going to be iffy because he was doing his deal with Toyota. Trackhouse and Ross Chastain, that would be a good bet right there. Also, probably Daniel Suarez. Anybody that was formerly affiliated with Penske, I would also throw in Austin Cindric will probably run that thing. Anybody that was formerly affiliated with Penske or Ganassi, I would put them in there. Douglas Serrano says, is RCR still going to have 3 charters? Probably not next year, but I think they are looking at it in the future. I think they want to have Austin Hill, Austin Dillon, and Kyle Busch. Unfortunately, I think KFB will have a bad year, says Kevin McNamara. A lot of people are predicting that. I'm not one of them. I'm on the other side of that. I think he's going to have a good year. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder and probably have a better year than a lot of people are expecting. Kevin Harvick sucking next year. Best pick ever, says Enzo. I mean, are they not going to throw the book at him? I would be surprised if they didn't, because they hold a grudge better than anybody. Richard Petty didn't die in the 43. You can't change the number out of respect. Then put your grandson in it and not expect some pushback. Says ML William. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I do expect there to be pushback, but what I'm saying is for the overall good going forward and in the future, like, to always see that 3 on the racetrack is cool. To always see that 43 on the racetrack is cool. And the ironic thing about this is nobody ever brought this up with David Pearson because he drove multiple numbers, but like David Pearson in the 21, like nobody ever brought that up, and David Pearson was every bit as good as anybody else that ever did it. So it's also like funny, like which race car drivers we sort of get attached to like this. Like nobody has an issue with anybody running the 22. Fireball Roberts, he was another good one. So there's all kinds of layers to it, but I always think it's a good idea to run the numbers. So you have the history of the number. And also in that situation, it is Richard Childress's number. Even Earnhardt said that. So Earnhardt made it famous, but it's Richard Childress's number. So there's other layers to it as well. TJ Moorshed, been meaning to ask on someone's podcast, anyone know what happened to Quinn Huff after Starcom Racing folded? I sure do, TJ Moorshed. He runs late model stock cars occasionally for Ronald Hill. That would be his father-in-law. He was at South Boston last time I saw him. So he's been running the 74 late model. At least I saw him at least once or twice at South Boston. So that's where Quinn Huff is at. Mark Wachowski says Truex doesn't suck. He runs good, hard, led a lot of laps, but finishes weren't there. Yeah, he's just had bad luck. Dwayne Mueller says leave old Harv alone. He's awesome. Mr. Pearson says 21 years on the Earnhardt deal. So I was off by a decade. Kane Corliss, I grew up with Truex. He's our hometown hero, LOL. So there you go. New Jersey man, Kane Corliss. Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, Martin Truex is awesome. He's great for the sport. Kevin McNamara says Quinn works at Wendy's now. Not Quinn. Quinn definitely doesn't work at Wendy's. Quinn's Quinn's a pretty smart dude. You might not like his driving or anything like that, but he doesn't work at Wendy's. I'll tell you that. He's been running late models recently though. Truex hasn't been the same since the Canadian opened the ski resort. LOL. So there you go. I just wish they would go to owners points as a system in Cup. It's just a way better than the charter. I mean, I agree with you. I think the charter should be gone, but I mean, I don't know what we can do about it, Moulton. I 100% agree with you about the points. I don't know what I can do to get rid of the charters. Just would like to say thank you, BB. I used to live in Boone, North Carolina, but left the States many years ago. It feels cool to chat with someone that knows the stuff. I appreciate it, Enzo. I lived in Boone too. I think we talked about this before, but yeah, I lived in Boone for a little while. Worked at B. Miller Ford. I don't know if you were there when they had B. Miller Ford, but I worked at B. Miller Ford when I was up there, and it's now Modern Ford. But if you know where the Modern Ford is in Boone, that's where I worked. And if you know where the Subways and Spooners 2 is at, that's where my apartment was. I was if you got Spooners and Subway, my apartment was over here, me facing to my right, right across from the sign that's scrolling with the stuff on it, telling you what's going on at Appalachian State that day. And I went to Appalachian State too, but that was an unsuccessful run academically. Because I didn't go to class my last semester there. Number 3 is the number Richard Childress ran, and it's the number Richard put on the car that Dale raced. For sure, Mark Wachowski. NASCAR is trying way too hard to attract fans that simply will never like racing. Kevin McNamara, I agree with that point. I live in New York City, and every person I tell I like NASCAR scoffs at me. Is so annoying. New York City, just it's not a NASCAR vibe. They've stigmatized NASCAR. Let's just be totally honest. They stigmatized NASCAR as this hick sport, when the actual truth about NASCAR is there are probably more engineers at a NASCAR race than just about anybody else's job other than like F1 or NASA. So this idea that it's just some hick sport, they think that Talladega Nights is a documentary, and that's just going to be the mindset that they have. The only way to ever change their mind about NASCAR would be to take them to a race, and you're in the perfect spot for it because you can take them to the lovely mountains of New York there in Watkins Glen and have like a weekend getaway, and then take them to the racetrack because Watkins Glen is a scene in itself. So if you could ever get any of your friends to get in on that deal, they would immediately become NASCAR fans. There's no doubt about it. Watkins Glen is actually a race I'm adding. I really want to see it either this year or next year. So expect that to be one of the vlogs for next year or the year after. Doug Serrano says another way to lose a race is getting bumped by someone from behind on pit road when it's hard to see a pit road in front of you like that with the sun beaming in your face. Yeah, sorry about that, man. And Kyle Larson is sorry about that too. And the sun is sorry about that. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm glad that Kyle Larson won, but I really wanted to see that battle with Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson at the end of that race. I wish it never went to caution, but it did. So it stinks. Jason Ratcliffe says, "Go Mountaineers, go App State." Yosef in the house. That's why Xfinity and Trucks qualifying is way better than Cup because their streaks, their stakes in them. Like that's a good point, Moulton. If you don't, if a team don't qualify on speed, you're not the top 31 in points, you're not going to make the show. Unlike Cup, I agree with you 100%. That's part of the reason that the qualifying doesn't get good ratings like it used to. There used to be stakes. There used to be a chance that a really good guy was not going to make the race. Now, not so much. So I agree with you on that. Props to Truex for being a man about the pit road incident. A lot of guys would have just blamed Larson. I agree with you, ML William. I think that was one of the most stand-up things that's ever been done in racing because he didn't have to own up to that, but he 100% did. And you just don't see people that tell the truth like that in racing anymore, just to be totally honest with you. Martin Truex Jr., just a dude from another planet. He's just a stand-up dude. I just dropped in to say hello. Love what you do. Got my hands full right now. I got to run. We'll check back later. Appreciate it, Jason. Found out the other day that Dale and Dale Jr.'s birth name is Ralph. Yeah, they're both Ralphs, Kane Corliss. Ralph Jr.'s, Ralph Dale Earnhardt and Ralph Dale Earnhardt Jr. Michael Jordan's middle name, coincidentally, is Jeffrey, so Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And he was a Cale Yarborough fan growing up. So there you go. There's my middle name facts for the day. Denny Hamlin has 4 names. James Dennis Allen Hamlin. So that is Denny Hamlin's the man with 4 names. I think that's it. Exactly. People out here think they're superior, but constantly showing how ignorant they are. There you go. You nailed Manhattan, at least in a nutshell. From my experiences down there, I've been to like Brooklyn and Queens. People there were more chill, more laid back. But Manhattan, if you need to know something, just ask somebody because they know it all. So Larson did him a favor, or he would have missed his pit guaranteed. Bones 2 said that's fair enough. I know exactly where you lived. Makes me feel closer to you, LOL. I lived through 2002 to 2000. Oh, dude, we were up there at the same time, Enzo. 2012 depends on when you went to App State. We might have partied together. Yeah, I was. We probably did, dude. I went to Spooner's too once or twice in 02. So yeah, it would have been 02 because I was gone by 02. I left by the winter of 02. So yeah, I didn't stay around for the frigidness of December, but I stayed there, I think, till November of that year. Pocono is a pretty cool race also, says Kane Corliss. Yeah, Pocono is a good race to go to. Not everybody loves the racing there, but I think Pocono is one to add to the list. Talladega is definitely on the list. I think the reason Truex took blame is he's so over this season that he doesn't even care about the drama. Because I think I see what you're saying there, Moulton, but I think he just took the blame because that's just who Truex is as a dude. Because I think if this was last year, he would have blamed Larson, but this has been a bad year for him. To finish up Moulton's thoughts, yeah, Talladega Nights actually did harm the sport, says Sonny V. I agree, man. It makes it look like it makes it just look like I don't know, like a sport that it was in the 80s. Might have been an accurate documentary in the 80s, but it definitely was never accurate from the 90s on. Enzo said, "Heck yeah, the Spooners. Way too cold for me too." LOL. That's without a doubt. Pardon my French. The Canadian is done skiing. He's back Sunday with Truex. Welcome back, Mr. Pern. There you go. Old Cole Pern coming back one more time. TJ Mooreshed, Glenn, and Martinsville areas are some of the prettiest I've visited on the entire East Coast. For sure, Martinsville is really cool. It's sort of mountainous, but it's not nowhere near as mountainy as Watkins Glen. But definitely really cool. I'm going to get up to Watkins Glen for a race, hopefully within the next 2 years. Fate or God willing, depending on what you believe. From Long Island, lived in Roanoke, Princeton, West Virginia, Italy, now in VA. Virginia Beach, I've been pumping it all over. It doesn't matter where people are from. They're either into cars or they are not. That's a good point too, Rusty Beechwood. I spent some time near Virginia Beach. We used to go to Bar Norfolk a little bit, and I did spend some time at Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is so relaxing until they start flying the jets over. Then that just killed my beach vibe. Every time I go to Virginia Beach, they fly those jets, doing some type of testing or whatever they're doing, squadron practice. I don't know. I hate the single lug, low profile tires. Stupidest tires you can put on a stock car, but it looks cool. I hate Steve Phelps, says Kevin McNamara. I agree. And that was also pushed by the manufacturers. They wanted those rims, so I put that on the manufacturers as well. Style over substance in that situation. Kane Corliss, do you think Deegan is going Xfinity for SHR? If it's not directly for SHR, it'll be for SS Greenlight, which will basically be an offshoot of SHR, and I think she'll have really good results there. Truex Jr. Did the shake and bakes. Truex literally crashes into Chase Elliott out just to help Hamlin. Chase Elliott, WTF, FU Truex. So Moulton with a little fan fiction there. Enzo says, no way you also lived in Boone. You just got a fan for life. Keep up the great work, bro. See you around. No doubt about it. And with that one, I appreciate it, Enzo, because Boone was a fun time. it looks so much different now, man. They have built that place up so much. I drove through it. I didn't have a chance to visit, but that place is built up so much more differently than when I left it in '02. We'll put it that way. But it's still really cool. It's just way bigger now. But with that, I will see you guys later. Thanks for your time. Peace. Peace. Hey, there you go.